Streaming? Good. All right. Good evening and welcome to the Zoning Commission regular meeting tonight at March 28th, 2024, 7 p.m. The meeting's being held in the Town Hall, Brookfield Town Hall, Room 133. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag for the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll let the members of the commission introduce themselves tonight, starting from my left.
Gwen Arment, alternate.
Gerald Pratt, regular member.
Anthony Papucci, Vice Chair.
Kurt Timmerman, Chairman.
Sean Turner, Secretary.
Matt Grimes, alternate.
Tonight we're going to seat Matt Grimes as a voting member.
Okay.
I think we'll move the zoning enforcement, because of the number of people here and maybe how long it might take, we're going to move the zoning enforcement off to continue for next time. Could I get I'll entertain a motion to
I'll make a motion to table the zoning enforcement for the next board meeting.
All right. I have a second?
That's actually the next regular meeting because we're having a special meeting.
Yes, a regular
Correct.
meeting, yeah.
Next regular meeting. Sorry, thanks,
Which
Matt.
is April 11th.
Yes. Second.
Any discussion? Does anybody have a problem doing that? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any nays? Any abstentions? Nope. Measure passes.
Move that we accept the minutes of the March 14th, 2024 zoning regular meeting as submitted.
All right, thanks, Matt.
I think Gwen will have to vote on this one, though, since.
Okay.
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman. Yes, on, where am I? Number 2 enforcement down at 7 Maple Tree.
Yep.
I believe that I asked if there were any commercial vehicles at the property.
Oh, instead of he.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so change that to Ms. Armet. Also, I notice error on line 28. It said cease and desist. It should be cease and desist. That's just a typo. And then on line 33, I'm not sure if lull was the word. Is that supposed to be fill? He would also be removing the fill from the rear yard?
Lull, that is a lull.
Oh, it is lull.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay,
A
so
lift, yeah. lull.
delay that. Oh, okay. I learned a new word today. Anybody have any other corrections? No, did anybody second that?
I thought Gwen did, but I wasn't sure.
Oh, Gwen?
I did?
Did you? I don't know.
Can't see alternate.
Anybody want to second the,
Oh, I can't vote.
You're an alternate. I'll second.
You can because you were here and they weren't. And that.
I think it's also
All
my
right,
turn to be on.
Gwen second and of the the corrected minutes? All in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstain? All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. All right, our first public hearing, which is continued, is 271 Federal Road, Z-21. So let me read the rules. This is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Zoning Commission. At this point in our agenda, we have scheduled a public hearing concerning the application of 271 Federal Road, application Z-24-1, for a conversion of an existing banquet facility into a house of worship. First, again, we'll introduce the members of the commission present here this evening, starting from my left.
Gwen Arment, alternate.
Gerald Pratt, regular member.
Anthony Papucci, Vice Chairman.
Kurt Timmerman, Chairman.
Sean Turner, Secretary.
Matt Grimes, alternate, seated as regular member.
We will open this public hearing by reading the legal notice of the hearing. Let me give you that. What do you usually have this on the second page? Ah, here it is. Got it.
Everything in highlight.
Volunteer.
The highlight, okay.
Notice, Brookfield Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at Town Hall, 100 Pocono Road, room 133, at 7 p.m. at 3/14/2024 for the application by 271 Federal Road, Z-24-1, Perrier Christian Fry, 1115 Pocono Road, number 614, for Fairfield Catering Group, 506 Candlewood Lake Road, special permit with design review to convert an existing banquet facility into a house of worship. At this hearing, interested persons will be or may appear to be heard and written communications received. Files are available for inspection at Town Hall. Kurt Timmerman, Chairman.
Thank you. This application was formally received by the Commission on February 27th, 2024. The public hearing is only one aspect of the approval process and is for the purposes of accepting factual information and data bearing on this application and to allow expression of opinion by interested parties. Subsequent to this hearing, the Commission has 65 days in which to render a decision on this proposal. The final decision may be in the form of approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or denied. After reading into the record the correspondence received by the Commission relative to the application, we will ask the applicant to present the application in detail. The presentation will be limited to 45 minutes. The Chair will then entertain questions of clarification concerning the applicant's presentation. We will hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed. Comments must be limited to 3 minutes. Members of the public will have one opportunity to speak during this segment of the hearing and may also submit their concerns in writing during the public hearing. During this segment of the Commission may ask questions. The bylaws of the Commission only allow for the presentation of similar positions in succession and preclude the intermixture of comments pro or con, which is why we have the sign-up sheets. All questions and comments must be directed through the Chair. As you are recognized, please state your name and address so the comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the Commission is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application, and in view of the time constraints placed upon us, we ask your indulgence in not reiterating comments previously presented. After the public comments are received, the applicant will have the opportunity to comment, and the time will be limited to 10 questions. And also, if you didn't sign up to speak, don't worry, I will be asking for anybody who didn't see the sign-up sheets. But we'll go through the sign-up sheets first. Are there any questions about the rules? Okay, these are the same rules I'll go over with the cannabis as well. We will now ask the Secretary to proceed with a reading of correspondence. Okay. Well, actually, I'm the Vice Chair.
That's all right.
I knew it.
This is the only one?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll look for others.
We received an email from Deanne Comlo. Dear Commissioners, as a 37-year-old resident of Brookfield, and more specifically Rolling Wood condominiums, and having lived on Tower Drive and currently on Celeste Court, I am opposed of the conversion of the former Fox Hill Inn banquet hall to a house of worship. Living in Rolling Wood has its merits. As a relatively quiet community with country-like feel, it's always been pleasant to be able to take walks without concern of having to dart traffic. This once-in-a-while music heard from the Fox Hill Inn during the wedding season was, for the most part, non-intrusive and even pleasant. Over the past 5 to 10 years, increased traffic and the noise has become appalling. My concern is that with the church that is not only operating on Sundays, but to hold events throughout the week and weekends, the traffic and noise could become abysmal. The climate of Rolling Wood has already changed for those of us who have lived close to Federal Road and all of the amenities, and it is becoming unpleasant and even dangerous place to live. I urge you to take in consideration when voting whether to accept the plans to redesign or to convert the former Fox Hill Inn banquet hall to a church, and to restate, I am opposed to the plans to the redesign and the conversion of the existing banquet hall to the property of a house of worship. Respectfully submitted, Deanne Como, Chelsea Court, Brookfield, Connecticut.
Thank you. All right, so I don't think there's any other correspondence, not that was the only thing. All right, so now we'll hear from the applicant on their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, my name is Charles Lichtenauer. I'm an attorney with Chipman Mizuko Emerson, located at 44 Old Ridgeberry Road in Danbury, Connecticut. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our project team. That starts with Christian Fry, our architect, right over here. Gregory Del Rio is our traffic engineer. John Royce is here with us tonight. He is the owner of White Star Properties and the Fox Hill Inn. Eric and Michelle Cook are here. They are attorneys for K Church, and I should mention that Ward Mizuko, another attorney with my firm, is here as well. So I should start by saying this is an application by White Star Properties and K Church Corp. For a change of use requiring a special permit at 271 Federal Road, which is located in the C1 zone. The proposed use is a place of worship in accordance with Section 42A2C of the Brookfield zoning regulations. I should start with a brief history of White Star. It has been a restaurant, it has been a banquet hall, it's been an event space, it's hosted weddings, it's hosted corporate events, it's hosted every event with a large quantity of people that you can think of. As you can imagine, events declined during the pandemic, and as a result, there was a business decision made by the owners to sell the property. The contract purchaser is K Church Corp., and they are proposing to use the facility as a church. My role as attorney for White Star is to assist the contract purchaser in gaining zoning compliance. This is a contingency in many real estate contracts. Moving on to the specifics of the site and the application, access is via Federal Road, then Rollingwood Drive, that short section there. And then it turns left onto Tara Drive, then it hangs a right, and it goes all the way to the subject property. There will be limited renovations associated with this change of use. The renovations proposed include upgrades to comply with building and fire code, as well as ADA accessibility. The place of worship, as I mentioned, will be K Church, and I'd like to give a brief summary of their operations. Tuesday through Thursday, there will be small groups with approximately 15 vehicles from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Friday, they will host a group of about 35 vehicles from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Saturdays, there are no events planned, except for those who are coming to the site to prepare for Sunday service. Sunday service will be held at 9 a.m. Most congregants will arrive around 8:30 a.m., 8:45 a.m., and congregants will leave the site in a staggered fashion, normally trickling out right after service, but no later than 2 p.m. The congregation total at this point is 190 parishioners, and the zoning regulations call for 60 spaces. And I should note that that's one car per 3 seats. That's the requirement of the zoning regulations. And I should also note that the zoning regulations reference the number of seats at the place of worship. Here, however, because of the characteristics of this site, we're not proposing any permanent fixed pews or chairs. We are going to be using movable chairs depending on the congregation that arrives. And so the most accurate way to calculate parking requirements is actually the number of parishioners rather than the number of seats. The maximum congregation is 266 individuals, and that's based on the building code. We're not allowed to have any more than that. The zoning regulations for 266 seats, or people require 89 spaces. There are, according to this plan, 106 parking spaces on site. As I mentioned, our traffic engineer, Greg Del Rio, conducted a traffic study. He found no significant impacts during the weekday evening, Friday evening, Saturday midday, and Sunday midday peak hours. There will be continued acceptable conditions during the Sunday morning peak hour for this use. And I should note that if you carefully read the traffic study, it assumed a lower occupancy per vehicle than the zoning regulations. So what this naturally resulted in was an overstated estimate in the number of parking spaces required. If you use that 2.25 per car estimate, you would need a parking demand, or it would yield a parking demand of 120 spaces. As I said, there are 106 spaces on site. Overflow parking is available in the southwest corner of the property, and it has been used previously for Fox Hill Inn events. But again, as I said, right now, 190 congregants. They had a sharp dip over the last year. It's not expected to rise anytime soon, but in the case that the congregation level rises, we do have options to accommodate all of the parking required. Now, that's just a brief overview. We have our specialists here if you have any detailed questions. I would like to just touch on the approval criteria for a special permit, if you'd indulge me. The first is zoning. Places of worship, as you know, are a special permit use in the C1 zone. And that's why I'm here today. The second consideration is the plan of conservation and development. And for those of you who were here about a year ago during the regulation change application, there is scant reference to places of worship in the POCD. But the positive impact of faith-based communities in Brookfield is noted. It's not noted heavily, but it's in there. The third consideration is environmental protection and conservation. I should note that there are no wetlands on site, and we're not proposing any exterior renovations. The fourth consideration is neighborhood compatibility. This site has been used as an event space for the better part of 50 years, and without complaints from neighbors, according to John. It's in the C1 zone, which provides for activities with regional draw. This could be considered an activity with regional draw. The fifth consideration, suitable location. We are right off Federal Road here. It's a large site. It has ample parking. And the intensity of the operations, as compared to a banquet hall that's operating on a daily basis with large events from Thursday through Sunday, is reduced. We're not having raucous events with potentially inebriated drivers coming down Tara Drive onto Rollingwood and then onto Federal Road. The sixth consideration is appropriate improvements. And as I mentioned, there's not much improvement required to transform the use. The building and grounds are beautiful. We don't want to mess with that at all. And we don't propose any aesthetic alteration to the exterior of the building. As I said, improvements for ADA compliance, fire code, and building code will be made. The seventh criteria is suitable transportation conditions. I did briefly summarize Greg's traffic report. He'll be happy to answer any more specific questions that you may have. The eighth consideration of 9, I'm getting there, is adequate public utilities and services. And one thing to understand about this property is that it was initially developed as a restaurant and banquet hall. Restaurants and banquet halls require a significant amount of public utilities and services. We're talking sewer and water mostly. Again, this is a reduction in the intensity of the use that would reflect on the ability of the existing utility services to more than handle the proposed use. The ninth consideration of 9 is nuisance avoidance. As I said, in the history of this site as a restaurant, banquet facility, event space, there has not been a nuisance complaint. There has not been a visit from the police department. The change of use to a church would be less intense than the current use. And all activities generating sound would be conducted indoors. And with that, our team would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. You can direct them to me or any member of our project team. And thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Lichtenauer. Does anybody have questions, like, for example, the traffic study or anything? Yes, Gwen?
Thank you. What came first, the banquet hall or the condos? The banquet hall. Uh-huh. And do you know where your parishioners are coming from? Any idea?
Attorney Eric Cook for K Church. The parishioners, as a matter of fact, there's actually a few in Rollingwood, but they're also coming from just the general Danbury, Brookfield, and the Milford area. If you have any other questions of the church, of the applicant of the church?
All right. Yes, Matt?
Gentlemen, the traffic study, could you kind of just give an overview? Because I think everybody knows Federal Road on a Sunday, and I think everybody's probably interested in what, the overview of what that's going to be. Could I have a summary of it, kind of, for the public?
Good evening, Gregory Del Rio, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut for the record. Director of traffic engineering at Hardesty in Hanover. So yeah, we conducted the traffic study for this, and as you know, and as was described, in a lot of ways, this is very similar to a catering event type facility in terms of traffic and parking. And really, there's a reduction, right? Because there's one event where sometimes on Sundays there would be multiple events in and out. So the only time that there's more traffic than there is today is because the church starts at an earlier time than most weddings, right? Weddings usually start 11 or 12 o'clock. So those arrivals, right? It's really an arrival thing. It's kind of a one-way direction thing, sort of unique to a lot of different uses as opposed to, retail, for example. So it's the same thing that would happen on a Sunday, but at a later time. So think about it. 11 or 12 o'clock when a wedding or catered event is happening, it's a lot busier out on Federal Road than 9 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 or 8:45. So while there is a little more traffic coming in, and coming in is a little easier than leaving where you have to, they're all kind of coming at the same time and making the left turns. Those are the big concerns, right? Left turns more than the right turns. So it's a little more volume in the morning, but it's just a shift in time. And it's during a time when there's less traffic. So the impact is, it's not that there's more traffic during the day. It's actually over the course of the day there's less traffic. It's just that it's a time shift, so technically speaking, there's more traffic during the 9 o'clock hour, 8 to 9 o'clock hour. But again, Federal Road is a lot lower. None of the retail is open yet. Activity isn't it's just starting the day.
Thank you, Mr. Del Rio.
Oh,
I was just saying, I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
As far as Federal Road goes,
Yeah.
That's fine. Tower Road and the roads getting to the banquet hall, my assumption is those are all condos. So there is a potential impact to the residents that live in that space. Also, you're talking about church during the day. What about night? Is there adequate lighting and or has any of that been looked at as far as, because I thought some of the uses, and I might have written it down, but on Friday, 6 to 9, and then there was a couple during the day. I'm assuming that that's going to be around dusk. So now you've got people could be limited coming in and out of the space, but knowing that there's residents that also live back off of that road as it gets darker in the fall, stuff like that. Is there any impact or potential impact because of inadequate lighting and or people moving around?
No, not to my understanding. I mean, it wouldn't be much different. The catering facility also had, workers in activity as well as people showing the catering hall during the week. So, and that it was always after work, typically. So there was activity during the evening that would be very similar to the few employees that are going to be there during the week.
Do you know when the peak hour was for Sunday morning or Sunday?
Sunday is 8 to 9 in the morning.
Not for the church, but
Oh.
in general.
Now, I think.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been an event there in a while, but
Oh, not for an event,
Yeah.
for the traffic on Federal Road, if you're gonna look at,
I would have to look at the ATRs, but, typically between 11 and 1 is the Saturday on a retail corridor like that is typically where the peaks
same,
are.
same with Sunday, maybe.
Yeah,
delayed
Sunday would be the
because,
same.
Stores open a little.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that when they all leave, they don't leave en masse because, like you said, they trickle out.
Right. Yep. Yeah, roughly half leaves, after, and then the rest are congregating, they're participating, they're having meetings and other things. So it takes usually an hour to 2 hours before everybody is eventually out of there.
All right.
So I have a question. My experience with some churches is that there's a certain time after service when there's a lot of people leaving. Federal Road, especially in that area, can get a little crazy. Any thought of maybe, possibly hiring a police officer to monitor the traffic or to direct traffic at that immediately after service, which I'm assuming would probably be about 11 o'clock?
We haven't had those discussions. I would leave that, to the applicant, but we have not had those discussions. I don't foresee those being an issue because, like I said, the wedding events were coming out probably just a couple hours after that with similar traffic volumes.
The data you took for the existing Fox Hill Inn, that was previous years because they haven't been doing anything for the last couple of years.
Correct. It's all information that was provided.
And was it adjusted for, during the standard adjustment the state puts in from those years gone past to the current?
So I think what you're referring to is that would be background growth. If we were doing a technical analysis of like level of service at the intersection.
Right.
And because of the volumes and the times, that level was not necessary, so.
And the level
Yeah,
remains
yeah,
the same?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. And do you actually mention the level?
And the other thing is we usually, project out to when the project is going to open.
Yeah.
So in this case, there is no construction, there's just internal, so it is within the same year, so we wouldn't even put a growth rate on it in this case.
All right. Oh, Gwen? Yeah.
Yes. What kinds of activities happen during the week?
You would have to ask
Oh.
the applicant on the
traffic
specific
study
types.
plan.
But it's all, my understanding is it's mostly an internal meeting, and then they have some subgroups, but I don't want to speak out of line, I'll let them explain that.
I can answer that for you. Basically, what they have is a couple, like maybe men's or church groups or small groups that meet on Friday night, and then during the week, it's just planning. It's very small groups. The real activity is the church with the families. And when he did the head count of 190, that's including the children that go to church as well. So that's the biggest activity. Everything else is well under the previous activity that was at the Fox Hill Inn.
Okay.
Is it safe to say, barring, Attorney Cook, barring this Sunday service, you don't envision all the parking spaces being full for almost any?
Not even close.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, you covered it. Thanks.
All right. So would anybody like to speak in favor of this application? Is anybody on the list?
Which this is which?
Actually, I think that nobody's written anything on the K-Church list, is that correct?
No, it's all for the other one.
But if anybody's here, they can.
Yes, yes. Does anybody like to speak in opposition to the application?
I have a comment, does it have to be in favor or?
Oh, you know what, I forgot to ask, is there any questions of clarification? Would you,
Tara
could you come up to the podium so we can, state your name and address.
Good evening, Tara Carr, 54 Indian Trail. I just think that it would have been very prudent for Mr. Grimes to recuse himself from participating in this particular item because I believe he has a conflict of interest with Attorney Cook, who happens to be representing K Church. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody elaborate on what that conflict of interest is.
I don't know. I'll take that. I don't think they do, but judging by,
Campaign support.
all right. Will anybody else like to speak in opposition or questions of clarification?
I'm gonna ask that that comment be stricken from the record because it did not pertain to this application.
Kind of does.
Yeah,
It kind of does pertain, you know, he's seated, so it does pertain to it.
She said that I have a conflict of interest, and she didn't state what the
She
conflict of
did.
interest
She said you
is.
were donated to his campaign, to Mr. Cook's campaign.
Did I donate to your campaign,
Other
Mr.
way
Cook?
around.
Oh, other way around.
well, I'm sorry, but the politics between the two don't really apply to a zoning thing.
Okay. All right, as long as it's down on record.
Thank you for your concern, but I don't think it applies in this case, because it's a political thing. You know. Anybody can, give money to anybody else during a political season. We're not about politics here, whether Republican, Democrat, or unaffiliated. We're just discussing this application and, what the public thinks of it, and get feedback on that.
At the end of the day, any application we consider, if the application meets the zoning regulations, it's going to be approved. If the application does not meet the zoning regulations, it's going to be denied. Sometimes the commission can make stipulations on the application, and to the extent we can do that, we will. But that's how applications are decided.
Is there anybody who'd like to speak in opposition?
I just have a question.
Oh, sure. Could you step up?
Can I stay here?
Well,
We
unless
can't hear
someone
you
could
on
give
the
her a
record.
microphone.
No, I'll talk loud. I don't need a microphone. I just want to know, will the traffic be going directly through the
Your
rolling
name and
wood?
address for the record,
Yes.
please?
I'm sorry. Jean Musso, 13 Riverview Court, Brookfield.
Can you spell your last name, please?
M as in Mary, U, S, S as in Sally, O.
Thank you.
Will the traffic go directly through the Rolling Wood property to get to or from the church?
Mr. Del Rio?
Yes. So the question was, will the traffic go to and through the Rolling Wood property to get to and from the church? So I'll have Attorney Lichtenhouse answer that.
Sure, yes. The answer to the question is no. The section of Rollingwood Drive, that short little nub right there, in addition to the entirety of Tara Drive and the right all the way into the subject property, are all owned through a different entity, but by the principals of White Star Properties. There is an access easement for the small number of Rollingwood condominium unit owners on Tara Drive, but the answer to that question, legally speaking, is no.
Can you clarify the easement that there might be there too? Was there an easement on that access between Rollingwood and the owner of the property,
The owner of
the Terra Drive?
The owner of Tara Drive has granted an access easement to the to Rollingwood condominiums for access to the units that front Tara Drive.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Am I only entitled to the one question?
No.
Second question, do you know if the residents of Rollingwood were notified about that so that they would be able to voice their opinion?
So the question was, were the residents of Rollingwood notified of this public hearing to speak their opinion? Mr. Attorney Lichtenhouse can answer that.
The answer is yes, they were.
And how, by mailing?
By mailing to the condominium associations, yes.
All right. Were you, is that by, because our regulations state in 811E.2 that you also have to send something to every single person who owns a condo in there.
That is correct. We sent notices to all 3 condominium associations in Rollingwood. We did not send individual notices to unit owners, as there are 290-plus unit owners within the Rollingwood condominium associations, all 3 of them.
And did you direct them to, in turn, tell their people, notify their people in the condos?
I am not sure the exact wording of my letter. It did contain all the standard information in addition to my contact information in case there were questions or concerns. It is standard practice. Attorneys at my firm have been working in land use for over 40 years. The standard practice is to notify condominium associations, and that serves as constructive notice to the unit owners. So that's what we did here.
Mr. Chair,
I-
when was that sent?
That was sent in accordance with the regulations. I'd have to check the date from the file.
A year, 2 months? Just ballpark, I'm just curious.
Oh,
Be after we set the public hearing, I would hope, right?
No,
Yeah,
I don't think
that's
so.
the question, Matt. I'm sorry.
When did we set the public hearing?
They were sent out, certificate of mailing is on February 22nd, 2024
Of this year, okay.
of this year, yeah.
Did you just read something that said the individual unit owners have to be notified now?
That was our regulations, 8.11E.2, in addition to the abutting
Would
property.
would it be, on that regulation, would it be all of the units, or would it be the ones that are abutting the current Fox Hill property?
It'd have to be all of them.
Yeah, it's affecting all of them. You think we got to put out.
I mean, technically, one could say the condo association
I'm
owns the
Curious
property,
as to what it says.
and, but what it says is 8.11E2. When required by these, this is 8.11E2. When required by these regulations, the applicant shall buy a certificate of mailing, which is what I have here. Notify operators of properties within 100 feet of the subject property, including owners of all condominium units both on and adjacent to the subject property, whether inside or outside of Brookfield. That's what the,
So they didn't do that.
I'd be hesitant to close the public hearing then if until we know that they've had the opportunity to weigh in on this. And obviously, they haven't, if they all individually haven't been notified, because to me, notifying just the association would not satisfy the requirement of notifying the individual property owners. So I think we need to at least continue the public hearing for that reason, and then they would have the opportunity to weigh in on this. I mean, I don't doubt that the associations received it based on what you've got in the folder.
yes, they did receive it.
They did, may I make a comment, please? Our last, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the one before that, somebody who's on the board actually did not receive a notice. Ah.
On this, on the condo board. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
and she's sitting,
Well, if you could come up.
I'm a little slow.
That's all right.
And that was 2 meetings ago, right?
2 meetings ago.
Yes, thank you. My name is Anne Marie Meehan. I live in Rollingwood. I'm on the board of directors. I'm actually the president of Phase 2. I was at the,
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Would that be Rolling Hills Condo Association Number 2, Inc., care of Imagineers LLC?
that's correct, yeah. I'm the president of Phase 2. I was at the last meeting. I did not receive the letter. My understanding was the only people who received the letters were the people who lived on Tower Drive and just a few people who were closest to the Fox Hill Inn.
So this is the return receipts from the letters they sent out. It was
This is
sent
the
out to number 2, which is what you represent, and there was a return receipt that came back as been received.
I don't know. I know I didn't receive a letter at
So-
all.
who gets the mail for?
Well, it's
It
delivered,
went to 249 West Street, Seymour, Connecticut,
that's Imagineers, as far as I know, yeah.
and that's where it went.
Okay, well, I'll let them know that, if that was it, but I did not receive that letter. But I have a further question, okay? And-
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, the question pertains to the traffic flow in the consideration of the church, which, and that is that left, particularly coming off of Federal Road, where you have Hacienda and you have a lot more activity there, whether that will be part of the decision-making process, because has been quite a bit of discussion about that. There is a lot more activity there. I live in that development. I've been there for 12 years. And while I understand that the church has limited parishioners and it falls within those guidelines, that activity is really a lot, particularly making that left. There is no light there. It's very dark there. You have a traffic light is not there, and also
These are
there's,
just questions of clarification. So your question was, how are we considering that?
how are you considering that? That's my only
Yes,
question.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. And you will make your decision within 65 days.
Well, this was opened tonight, so.
Right.
So we have
Oh, no, it was open last. It was open.
Did you open it? Did you read the?
We did, and then
We did, and we
opened it.
continued it.
Oh, all right.
Right.
So we have 65 days to make a decision unless we get an extension from the
Right.
applicant.
And we have, in that timeframe, we can send in any questions that we have concerning, my guess is it'll be primarily the traffic.
We're gonna try to mechanically
I get it.
give you guys these new changes.
I know it's been going on a long time. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you have a lot to do on the agenda tonight. Okay. So just for further, about the mail, okay? Because the mail came up the first time, and I think had there been a better flow, okay, of that, we may not have been 2 years into this process. So, I mean, I get it, and we all, like I said to Ms. Arman, I don't live and die by the mail, but, it would have been, I think, a lot smoother.
Yeah. All right.
That's all. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Kurt, for clarity, it's 65 days after we close the public hearing? 'Cause
We have 65 days to close. Oh, how many, no, how many,
Open 35 days to hold the public hearing unless you get an extension, and then
65 days after.
oh, so,
Yeah.
So we're 14 days in now from the
Correct.
time the public hearing was open.
yeah, so our next meeting is in,
April 11th and then April
which
25th,
is,
so.
how many days away? Is that- should-
Trying to figure out if April 11th's enough time for them to notify who needs to be notified, or is the 25th enough?
Right, that's where I was
That's
going
what I'm
with
trying to figure
that.
out.
I think the 25th is just outside the 35 days, and the 14th is just inside.
Does the math seem to hold up for 35 days from,
Wait a minute, that might be exactly 35 days. That'll be the 35th day.
March 14th?
Right.
35 days from.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the applicant would consent to an extension
Okay,
if the commission deems it appropriate to send additional notices.
yeah, all right. Yeah, I think, thank you.
Yep.
So,
So that's a good idea.
but before we try to do that, though, do we have anybody that wants to speak?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna
against the
finish
application?
this, yeah. So with the question of time limits fixed, is there any other questions of clarification for this application? I already asked if anybody's for it. I didn't think I heard anybody. Anybody in opposition who'd like to speak? All right, so,
Got one right here.
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's not exactly opposition, but if the church is ruled out, what would be a second option?
It's out of order.
Is something
It's
gonna
out of
go
order.
there?
We have no decision on it. This is the application that's,
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to continue the public hearing with respect to 271 Federal Road to April 25th, 2024, so that the applicant has sufficient time to notify the the adjacent property owners with respect to with respect to our regulations. And I guess they would have to submit compliance of that to the land use office ahead of time so that they made the requisite number of days.
Yeah,
I second that.
thank you. Any discussion on the motion to continue? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Make sure I don't lose any of this.
This is gonna go on forever, isn't it?
Yes, please.
Pigs are getting bigger.
Is this also?
What do we do with this?
We should also be.
Yeah, I think that's us. You have a due.
We should check that. I mean, they're probably going to notify everybody, but just for clarification for the future.
So this goes to April 25th.
What does the commission think about moving some of these smaller ones up ahead? Because I figured the cannabis will be longer.
Who's here right now, for what right now?
So the next one up would have been, let's see, we have 500A, which is Steve Sullivan and they're present.
874 here too?
And 77 Vale Road and 874, I think all three of them are here.
Okay, so let's just make,
Figuring those will be quicker, we'd like to move them ahead so we end up on the cannabis, because we don't know how long they'll run.
let's make a motion to move 6A to after 8A.
You making that motion?
Yes, I am.
All right,
I'll second it.
all right. Any discussion on moving these around to change the flow, to make it better?
Get these folks out of here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? So,
500A.
500A, application Z-24-7, Steve Sullivan from CCA, for a site plan modification, various architectural landscaping mods, is yet to be built, 78 unit
Steve here.
development. Nick, you should.
Good evening, and for the record, my name is Nick Uschak. I'm a registered landscape architect with CCA LLC at 40 Old New Milford Road in Brookfield. The applicant is Tollgate of Brookfield LLC. Last time before the commission, the application was presented in great detail. The application was continued because there was a request for a rendering, and the applicant has provided this rendering, which I'll hand out.
Oh, I think we all got one.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Are these in the file? Oh.
This one here, right?
Yeah, but this is the HD version.
Yeah, those should be a lot easier to see.
Okay.
So as you can see in front of you, these are traditional New England-style buildings. And in our opinion, they're in scale with the surrounding neighborhood. Regarding the building height, we'd like to bring attention to section 6.11 of the Brookfield zoning regulations. This section is referred to in the residential zoning regulations in 3.H-3, and this is regarding building height greater than 30 feet. So 6.11, just to refresh the commission's memory, deals with allowing buildings of a height and scale of each building to be compatible with its site and the surrounding neighborhoods, and as well as the site. There are architectural guidelines that are stated in this regulation as well. I could go into those, but I'm sure the commission is familiar with those at this point. But The bottom line is we feel that this provision was put in 6.11 to allow the zoning commission some flexibility so that they're not boxed in. With regard to the building height for multifamily housing as well. As per our letter, we're requesting a height range of our buildings between 27 and 37 feet. The heights are going to vary, so this is a positive thing, so that as you're looking at the roof lines, you have varying roof lines, and it's a much greater aesthetic appeal. We'd like to point out that the Oak Meadows to the north, some of the homes exceed 38 feet. So we're well below that. So in conclusion, we'd like to seek relief for the height requirements per section 6.11. And as illustrated in the renderings in front of you, these are a high quality design. We have durable materials. They're of a height and a scale that's compatible with the development to the north. We also have a nice transition along Federal Road of varying heights. So it's in keeping with the neighborhood, and in our opinion, I think we feel that this will be an asset to the community. So we throw that out there. Also, as an aside, the fire marshal did make a request. He reviewed the site plans and asked for us to widen the emergency access way from 18 feet to 20 feet. So the applicant agrees with that, and that will be reflected in revised plans.
So you don't have those revised plans today, but you'll send them in?
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
The buildings on the road here in your rendering, you know how high those are. I mean, I was looking at the plans. There's a number of units there
Right.
on the road. And from what I could determine, and perhaps you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think one block of plans is about 30.6 feet tall, and the other one is 31.01.
Right, possibly, Fran, if you could bring up the layout plan with the unit numbers on it, please.
That would be units 1 through 4 and 5 through 7 are on the road. And I think in your letter, you mentioned what the height of each of these different buildings were going to be.
Yes, just to clarify, units 1 through 4 will have a proposed building height of 31.01 feet. 5 through 7 will be 30.65 feet.
And the height, it looks like the height of your rendering is like someone standing there, 6 feet tall, or in a car driving by.
Yes, yeah.
So,
As you're driving by, maybe if you're sitting in the car, you're probably at 3.5 feet high.
yeah. So you wouldn't really, it doesn't look like you see the buildings behind it unless you're looking down the street.
Right.
And the tall buildings, the tallest buildings here, the ones that, because there's not that many that are above, the 36-foot buildings, 34 through 42.
Yeah, that would be further back, I believe.
Those are the farthest ones away from Federal Road.
Yeah, right.
Yes, those are after the bend in the road, and it comes back down again, I believe.
Yep. Now, just for the commission, I talked with Attorney Beecher on these regulations, and they seem to have some wiggle room there, some conflict between what he's talking in 314, or the, what was it, the table, 3.5. They talk about the height, but below that, they say the height can be modified to adhere to the principles and goals of Section 611 architectural guidelines. So that is basically Section 611A. It doesn't say pursuant to it, which doesn't say you have to follow all the things in 611. It says to achieve the goals being in 611A. And the other part where we saw 611A actually says, oh, you can't do this for a residential building. So there is that conflict. They both have a conflict with each other. Removing that conflicting information is for another day to change our zoning regs, you know how long that takes. But I think for this, it might give us that leeway. The other interesting thing is before this, the regs pre-2018, Newberry Village and parks. Parks are age restricted, and they actually used to allow 36 feet, plus or minus whatever architectural things. So they could actually go higher than that, and it's probably similar to what happened with Oak Meadows. Yes, Glenn?
Well, Oak Meadows, you don't really see it. This is right.
Yeah,
on the
that's why
street.
this was good to
And
ask for
Newberry
this.
is the same.
And,
Newberry, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Newberry's,
Yeah,
Newberry's right.
so where does your building start? How many feet back from the road?
From the road, I actually measured that.
And it's just right in front of you, as
Yeah.
opposed to, as I said, Oak Meadows, I just drove by there.
From the road curb is 142 feet.
That's it.
Right, and Nick here again, Nick Ushjak for CCA. There's also landscaping in the front, all along the front. And once that fills out, it will be a similar situation where those buildings will be hidden nicely.
That's not enough trees.
Yeah, this is.
Well, I wouldn't go by the rendering literally. I would go more by our landscape plan.
None of the units are age restricted, are they?
No, this is just standard
not.
No, I'm just.
The way it was being presented was, they had language like of a park where you say, everybody says to downsize and everything like
Oh.
that. It's got all the elements of a park without
That's,
it being a park.
yeah, that's the audience they're going for.
But I know that.
Yeah.
Question, for the height and with the restrictions or what we were talking about, and I'm gonna use the 36 or 30, the gables of the roofs, is that usable, or is that aesthetically being the way it's set? Based on the renderings where you've got the multiple different heights and the different properties depending on what phases that you're looking at, is the design for some of the ones that are exceeding that, is that aesthetic, meaning it's still an 8-foot ceiling in the room, above is just open space
An
to
attic.
create an attic, to create the roof line versus, if it's dropped, then it actually cuts into the room and now you've got a 6-foot room or a smaller room.
Well, if I understand the question, I'm not sure I do. The height of the building is to the mean of the roof.
Mhm.
So the roof line actually continues up to the peak.
Right.
And each unit steps down.
Right.
Or up, depending on the topography. The units in between are, I can't really answer that question.
Okay, no, fair enough.
Right,
Again, in looking at the drawing, there are some, again, within the same unit, that there's height higher or lower.
Very.
So again, trying to mask out if it's 2 floors and each floor is 8 feet, plus flooring and how it would be built. There could be aesthetics for it to be taller, to give a different look versus a requirement, meaning it's gotta be this way because you need a 2-to-1 angle for the roof pitch for snow, and if you cut into that, again, now you're cutting into the usable space below it, or you're gonna do A-frames or vaulted ceiling. Again, you're changing the design of what the unit would look like.
Right, and in the case of these units, aesthetics is a major consideration, and variability.
Right.
You know, nobody wants to look at
Correct.
a straight roof line or facades, so.
So the floor altitude remains the same, just the peak gets deeper.
Yes, I believe so.
Now, in Newberry Village, they have a number, aside from a fence, they have evergreens there, which is
They
still
also
blocking.
slope down a bit too, so they're not right in your face.
Yeah,
like
they have a
these
berm
do,
there.
but- Right.
It's not an apples to apples comparison.
No,
Okay.
no,
No,
no.
Definitely not.
I'm, you know, to Gwen's point, I'm looking at, if that's gonna grow in, or, you know, if you have, plantings that are going to do a better job than your rendering of blocking the view, like the first floor or something like that.
Yes, well, understandably, the renderings have a different mission.
Mhm.
It's to feature the architecture,
Yeah,
and they don't always accurately portray the trees and the shrubs at maturity.
Right.
It's typical. If we showed the plantings at maturity in these renderings, you would not be able to see the building. Then you'd be asking the question, well, what do the buildings look like? All I see is trees.
yeah.
It's a-
Also, just to reiterate, these buildings on the front vary from 30 to 31 feet. So you're talking about 1 foot taller than the standard height max on the first row. We can't even see the buildings behind them from the road, because they're all kind of blocked.
Here's the landscape.
Yes, thank you, Fran. If you look at the landscape plan there, it's a variety of shade trees, ornamental trees, shrubs, evergreens. So it's a blend that will present a natural look. And once everything matures and knits and fills in, it will obscure some of the building from the road.
Okay. Yeah, you don't show all the shrubs here.
Right, it's,
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Can we require that there be a buffer, like an evergreen buffer, so that it's not so prominently seen from the road, as in Oak Meadows or Newberry? Can that be required?
I mean, we can put stipulations on. It looks like if you look at the planting plan there, he has trees lined up along the road. Bushes. The smaller ones are bushes?
smaller ones would be shrubs, yes.
Shrubs, yeah. And how tall do those grow?
Let's see, well, the shade trees probably, they could reach 50 feet. And the understory trees, sometimes 20 or 30 feet, depending on the species. So you have higher ones, you have lower ones underneath, and then the shrubs could get to be 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall, that sort of range.
Yeah.
Is it just one row, or is it a real buffer, like a natural buffer?
It's, well, the species are staggered, and so everything isn't lined up. We could have taken the approach where we're just going to put a line of monoculture evergreens from one end to the other, arborvitae. It wouldn't look good. So we're trying to make it look like it's been there all the time, like natural.
And, on the other side of that green area, how would you be opposed to another row similar to what you've done on the road?
Would that be closer to the
To the
building?
west, yeah,
To the west.
yeah, yes, right along there.
Yeah,
In that 100 feet?
Or is there subsurface stuff going on there?
That's possible. It should not be in the shaded area because that's part of the storm system.
Oh,
Possibly between that and the buildings, if there are no utilities, that would be an option or a question for the applicant. I can't speak for them,
Right.
but there are opportunities within that
Is that
area.
something you were thinking about, Gwen?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I brought this up quite a while back. Nick, you've been here so much.
Yes.
Thank you. In Florida, on the scenic route, there are buildings, there's a Publix, I'm talking about St. Augustine area in South, where you don't know there's anything back there, unless you know or you see the sign. I mean, maybe you can sort of see it. And it's a lot more pleasant than having it right on the street in your face,
Well,
in my opinion.
we do have the distance factor from Federal Road to the, when you get to the units. And part of what's being provided behind the units is a backyard space, some lawn. And, you know, typically, I'm not sure what the regulations would be for maintenance, you know, within this community, but there are opportunities to enhance the landscaping around these units.
All right.
So we're looking at the back.
Yeah, back of the.
Those are the back of the units. Those are people's private spaces when they come out to their patio and, yeah.
But shouldn't that be private?
Yes, but it's also like up to the individual, like unit owner, to decide how they may want to embellish their space.
Well, you have to come back and submit other an updated drawing anyway. So if you could also explore that option, so the view from the street can be a little less building and maybe a little more greenery as it grows up.
Sure, that would be a question for the applicant.
Okay.
We'll explore that possibility.
Any other questions from the commission? Nope. All right.
It's interesting because when you look at the renderings, it looks like those buildings are right on top of Federal Road, which they aren't, in fact. And also the shaded space in between, that will be grasses and wildflowers and that sort of thing. It's a conservation mix, so there's a little bit of height to that, and it would over time that may be seeded, and you may get, you know, other like voluntary species that come in there, and like trees and shrubs that will naturalize that area.
Okay. Sure. Please state your name.
Yes, sorry. Gary Michael, 70 West Street, Danbury, Connecticut. I'm a member of Tollgate Brookfield LLC. As it relates to the commission's question about additional landscaping, we're certainly not opposed to doing that if that's what the commission sees fit. So I just wanted to make that clear for the record.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
Any other questions? So we would continue this to the next meeting, so when they bring back, you know, the updated drawings plus, you know, the width of that the fire marshal wanted. So, I think that would be good, right? All right. So I'll accept the motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue.
To April 11th or the 25th?
The 11th, our next meeting. Any second, is that you, Durham?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Thanks, Nick.
Welcome, Dan.
77 Vale Road, Z-24-13. Mike DeLorio for site plan modification for an emergency access driveway.
I don't.
Good. Last time you were up here, you were just missing a wetlands approval, which
Yes, sir.
I believe you just got
Correct.
a couple days ago.
Monday.
Yeah. I think, so, was there anything else?
Now that he's got wetlands approval, I don't see any reason
Right.
why.
And that's where we were at.
Yeah.
We were basically, we couldn't do anything until wetland approved it.
Yep.
We discussed it.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve application Z 2413, that's 77 Vale Road for Michael DeLorio for TD and Sons, Inc. And that's the, concerning the site plan mod on the emergency access.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tony. Discussion on the motion?
I wasn't here.
Oh, all right.
Well, Gwen was, so she could.
Gwen was, yeah, I was gonna say, no, there was only 3 of us.
There are only 3 of us. I just have one question.
Yes.
Why the modification?
Oh, we just went for the.
We did that last time.
Did we do that?
Yeah, remember, the only thing we were waiting was for them.
I
to
know,
do
I
the
know. I
wetlands.
just,
Went from pavers to gravel.
Yes.
And they took the fence away.
yes, and I wondered why.
The gate.
Because when he bought the property, he didn't realize, oh, it's already done, you know.
That's the
I watched
honest
the
truth right
video.
there. Right there.
Thanks.
That's a
I
synopsis.
didn't.
That's the honest truth right there.
I should have.
That's the honest truth.
So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. And opposed?
Just one abstention.
All right, so one abstention. So, thank you. All right, and then finally, before we get to cannabis, so that's it, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
874 Federal Road, Z-24-17, Artel Engineering, 304, at 304 Federal Road. Site plan modification, relocation of driveway entrance/exit to be aligned with existing driveway, revised mixed-use building size to accommodate shift in driveway entrance.
Record Anthony Lucera, owner of 874 Federal Road. Here's Michelle from Martel. This site plan was originally approved. This way. They're both the same direction that I showed you. Site plan was originally approved, that we're under contract with two parcels, what used to be Peter's Imports and what piece of property that was owned by the McCarthy family. They were both subject to each other closing. Long story short, we were unsuccessful in closing on the McCarthy piece. So after a year of trying to get that done, we elected to just go forward and modify the Peter Import piece. And what we did to do that is we basically copied this portion of the plan is identical to what the proposed amended plan is. We're using the existing Peter Import driveway, so this building had to shrink, and we eliminated the pool and the clubhouse, and we increased the retail from 3,000 feet, which was in this building on the original approval, to almost 5,000 feet, 40-some odd hundred feet that's on the proposed one. And that is the basic request we have, is to modify the plan to reduce ourselves from 181 units to 106. The Wetlands Commission approved us 2 weeks ago?
The
Yeah,
11th, yeah.
their last meeting. Basically, we did the same explanation we're doing with you.
Yeah.
And Sharon and her commission members voted to approve that.
So they saw this as a modification themselves.
Yes, they did.
So, I looked at your plan, and I looked at the wetlands minutes, so for the commission. So you had a reduction in wetlands impact because you took away the building that was impacting the wetlands. You're not, now you're just gonna use the driveway that's there.
Yes, we are.
So it's not impacting anything because you're not changing anything there. You actually have fewer units in that building closest to the road. You used to have 36, now you're gonna have 16, 19, 16?
16,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because there's 106 total.
Right.
So the actual density seems to have gone down from like 20 to 19. So that's better. Your parking allowance, you easily met that, but you're almost close to 2 spaces per residential unit.
Yeah,
Which
we
is
checked
good,
it.
because we've heard problems with parking at some other projects. You know, they're crowded, there's not enough parking for the retail versus the residents in it. So, personally, I like that, because it seems better. So is any questions from the commissioners? I mean, by the way.
Little clarification, Mr.
Oh,
Commissioner.
yeah.
So where's Pete's Imports entrance is where? Okay.
The building, you can hardly see it here, but this shaded line is the actual Peter Import building. It's there now.
Okay. I thought these units were gonna be pushed back further when we approved this.
Zoning requires us to be between 6 feet and no more than 25 feet off the front property line. That's a zoning requirement.
Daryl, I think you're thinking of the parcel below it.
It must be, yeah.
That's the one that would be back 300 feet.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other one, okay. This is one that's building right now, that they're going in process?
No,
They're
no,
not
this
building.
This is across the street from that one.
This is,
Yeah,
so
that's what I
Peter's
thought.
Imports is a well, it's not vacant, it's got Peter's Imports.
Is
No,
that where they were gonna go from one side of the street to the other to go to the
That's the,
pool?
that's the property below it that the applicant couldn't get. And so that's.
That's not
that-
this property.
Yeah, that plan, that was the previous plan. And so this plan is like, okay, we couldn't get that, so we're reducing the plan to just have this. And it's also part of the change was to reduce the number of units, what used to actually be in those 4 buildings. And because of TCD regulations, this is not a vacant property, or because Peter's Imports is there. They, like he said, they have to be no more than 25 feet away. That's why that building's that close. And actually, the other building was too. You just kind of
Yeah.
slid it up and shrunk it.
Yep.
It's smaller. It's actually
Yep.
smaller. So, you know, the zone reg change we made, because we wanted to try to reduce the number of units on these 2 parcels together, this is one part of that effect. So the number of units is going down here. And then the number of units will be less on the other one too, so the total 2 properties will have fewer units than they used to have. Which was our goal. We wanted to have fewer units that could be built on these 2
This
properties.
is the one that's going higher up, though, right?
No, that's the bottom one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's-
No, this
right.
one, the same height.
Fewer from the initial plans from 9 years
Right.
ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very old plan. This was also a plan that was by agreement, a lawsuit slash, settlement. Is that what they call it?
This is right across from the other new construction.
Yes, yes.
And then there's a new construction in the back of that, and a previous construction on the side.
So across the street is AR Builders, who have 100 units, which consists of 2 buildings. That's currently under construction.
Right.
This is not under, this is,
Chairman, am I right? Directly across the street from our property is a project I built called Riverview. Those are the 42 townhomes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, their driveway is right here.
Oh, yeah.
See this
Right.
line right here?
Yeah,
That's their driveway
Yeah.
going into Riverview.
and they
Riverview
go
is-
back over there,
Yes, they
yes. I didn't even know those were there until recently.
any other questions from the commission? No. In my opinion, this is pretty straightforward, and it kind of goes to those goals that we were trying to get, reduce number.
And you have an emergency going to Laurel Hill?
Yeah, we do. Right here.
And that hasn't changed.
No, actually, the original approval, we were going through. The original approval of emergency access was behind the bowling alley,
Oh, okay, yeah.
all the way out to Station Road.
Yeah.
So-
But because of the property, that bottom piece of property is out of scope,
Yep,
Yeah,
now it's
they moved.
direct, right.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve 874 Federal Road Z 24-17. Artel Engineering, 304 Federal Road of Suite 308 Brookfield to do a site plan modification, relocation of driveway entrance and exit to be aligned with the existing driveway, revised mixed-use buildings, Building 1, and to accommodate driveway entrance and exit.
All right, thank you, Tony. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean. Any discussion on the motion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstain? You're abstaining?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Pratt abstains, and rest of approval. Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for modifying the agenda, by the way, also.
Oh, well, this next one's important, and I think it'll help the flow.
You wanna take, to allow people to go to the bathroom and stuff?
Oh, yeah, yeah, we'd take a motion to have a 5-minute recess to use the bathroom.
I make a motion to take a 5-minute recess
Want to oppose it?
for bio breaks.
Bio break, a second?
Doesn't matter.
All right, all in favor of taking a 5-minute break?
Aye.
Aye.
At least it's fewer.
Where's my,
I don't know. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the script. Is this script? See this, see this.
I didn't take.
This though.
I'm looking for the script, otherwise I won't know what to say. Yeah, similar to the other one. But it has certain dates on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have it here.
I didn't take it.
Well, maybe it's buried under all this stuff. I'm looking. Nope. And the, yeah. Yeah, I have the dates here. All right. The only other thing, I need the legal notice, because he read only the yellow thing, so he'll have to say the other part.
This isn't the right legal notice.
Well, it's just, it covers both, right? Doesn't it have the unhighlighted part, has the other public hearing?
No, no.
All right, I'll go with this one, and then I'll insert the dates as required.
It's up on the website, isn't it, though? It's up on the,
Yeah.
it's on the town website.
Well, you guys look for that, and then I'll read this, and when we get to that part.
It's on the town website, so.
All right, this is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Zoning Commission. At this point in the agenda, we have scheduled a public hearing concerning the application of 100 Pocono Road, Z-24-11, Town of Brookfield, for application for regulation change and text amendment of permitted and prohibited uses regarding cannabis establishment and medical marijuana dispensaries. First, let me have the members introduce themselves again, starting from my left.
Gwen Arment, alternate.
Daryl Pratt, regular member.
Anthony Papucci, vice chair.
Kurt Timmerman, chairman.
Sean Turner, secretary.
Matt Grimes, alternate, seated as regular.
Thank you. Now we're ready for the,
Did you find it?
we're going to read the legal notice again. Hold, please.
Just 1 second, Mr. Chair.
Oh, this is all my stuff.
There it is. We found it. There
All
you go.
right. So you want to read that?
Do I want to?
Please read that, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah. Pick the old guy to do this.
So look over here if you want to.
It's still gonna be fuzzy. This is the public hearing on the cannabis zoning regulations. The Brookfield Zoning Commission will be holding a public hearing for the new zoning regulations on cannabis sales and production on Thursday, March 28th, 2024 at Brookfield Town Hall, 100 Pocono Road, room 133. It's 7 p.m. Public participation is encouraged. If you are unable to attend, please submit your comments via email or mail to the Brookfield Zoning Commission, attention Land Use Office.
Thank you. This application was formally received by the Commission on February 23rd, 2024. The public hearing is only one aspect of the approval process and is for the purposes of accepting factual information and data bearing on this application and to allow expression of opinion by interested parties. Subsequent to this hearing, and actually since this is a hearing we brought by ourselves, normally you would have 65 days to render a decision, but because the Commission brought it ourselves, there are no time limits on it. The final decision may be in the form of approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or denied. After reading into the record the correspondence received by the commission relative to this application, we will ask the applicant, which is the commission, to present the application in detail. The presentation will be limited to 45 minutes. The chair will then entertain questions of clarification concerning the applicant's presentation, and we will hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application using the list, plus anybody else who hasn't been on the list, followed by those who are opposed, again from the list, and then anybody off the list. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Members of the public will have one opportunity to speak during this segment of the hearing and may also submit their concerns in writing during the public hearing. During this segment, the commissioners may ask additional questions. The bylaws of the commission allow only the presentation of similar positions in succession and preclude the intermixture of comments pro or con. All questions and comments must be directed through the chair. As you are recognized, please state your name and address so your comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the commission is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application, and in view of the time constraints placed upon us, we ask your indulgence in not reiterating comments previously presented. After the public comments are received, the applicant, the town, will have the opportunity to comment, and time will be limited to 10 minutes. Are there any questions about the public hearing? Just so everybody knows, this is not the only meeting we're going to have a public hearing. There's going to be another one because we know it's a very important topic for the town. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming in tonight, as well as submitting email and mail. We have about 29 pieces of correspondence that have been submitted. They're also up on the website so everybody can read them. It's good that you're sharing your opinion on this very important subject. It's why we advertise the public hearing about the application. Our commission does not want to make a decision in the vacuum. So usually, we don't get this many people.
Point of order.
Yes.
We have a bunch of emails that have been written, and I think we have like 20 or 30 emails. Do we need to read those into the record the way we would for a regular application, or because it's us?
I think it's because it's us and there's so many. I invite the public to look at those emails and scanned mails on the website. As I mentioned, as of 4:15 today, there was, I think, 29 submittals. In addition, there was other information up there that I think is important for this. Before I go into the actual regulations, I want to just go over some information, background information about these regulations. Also, please, if you have your phones on, please silence them and refrain from any conversation so we can respect the presentation and the public commenters who come up. First, this is from State Reg Public Act 21-1, which is done in 2021 to allow cannabis establishments, retail establishments. The DCP, the Department of Consumer Protection, is the primary regulator. General license types include production, medical, and retail. There used to be a cap on number of establishments in towns based on size, but that has since been lifted. The town may, through zoning or ordinance, create restrictions and prohibitions, so we're choosing to do it via zoning regs. Just this is the important part. In the absence of zoning regs or ordinance, ban, or moratorium, the application can be submitted under a site plan with no public hearing with a similar use type, like a liquor store. And then we would have no recourse to stop because they would meet our regs. So that's very important. That's why we're getting these things done. And that's why we're putting these regs in, because we want to, we want to be able to control what happens in Brookfield in regards to this. The state also has very strict rules on advertising and marketing, very strict rules on security and safety. I don't know if any of you have gone down to the 2 stores in Danbury. You can see for yourself. Strict rules on location to schools, recreation facilities, childcare, playgrounds, parks, libraries, items like that. There is a couple taxes on the sale of recreational or adult use, what they call. There's a regular sales tax. There's also a 3% tax on top of that goes directly to the town. It doesn't go through the state. It's remitted to the town. And then there's some other taxes that are based on strength, THC. But that tax revenue to the town is restricted on the use of the funds, so the state restricts what you can use that for. So on the website, there are 2 presentations that the commission received back in 2021 to educate the commission about Public Act 21-1, and I think it would be a good idea to go look at that to see. It's basically more detail of what I've just gone over. The commission, had additionally done some of our own research last year. Mike Lucia wrote it up for us to further educate ourselves on the regs as we discussed the moratorium that's in place right now. And again, that's available on the town website, as in addition to all the others. So it's on the agenda for this meeting. So our zoning reg application, our commission has submitted the application, and since we submitted it, there's no time limits, there's no 35, 65, 35 days to open it, come to a decision, or close the public hearing, come to a decision. That said, our moratorium expires on May 16th. And as I mentioned above, that's when, if we don't have any regs in place, or a ban or something, then we don't have control anymore of what happens in our town regarding cannabis application. A note about our regulations, they're a permissive type, and what that means is only things that are expressly permitted in our regs are allowed. Everything that isn't written is prohibited. That said, the state said, like I mentioned, if we don't have regs on this, they will go to the nearest use, which is alcohol sales. So in that case, it kind of overrules our permissive type. But because we're permissive regs, the application that we put together has included all the possibilities, as we cannot add any additional things to our application after we open the public hearing or after we advertise it. And what we can only do is add restrictions or strike language to whatever is written on this application. So it's more of a paring down process from the universe of what's allowed. As a matter of course, the zoning commission does not have an opinion before they deliberate. These proposed regulations do not represent what the commission wants. We have just put forth what's possible, everything that might be possible, and we specifically have these public hearings in order to accept all the input from the public, both data and opinion. And it's consideration of all this input that goes into our deliberations and informs the final vote and the final language of the regs. As I mentioned, we'll have at least 2 public hearings tonight, March 28th and April 11th. I could go to a 3rd meeting depending on continued interest. It's important to be mindful of the expiration of the moratorium to leave time for deliberation and a decision. The last meeting before the moratorium expires is May 9th. Since there was a lot of interest in there, we have sign-up sheets, as I mentioned. There are in favor and opposed because I have to do things in that order, and so I don't want to be trying to go down the list, trying to figure out who's what.
When you were talking about alcohol sales a second ago, just to clarify, that means liquor store establishments?
Liquor stores, yeah.
Not booze in a restaurant or a bar
No,
or
no,
anything
liquor
like that?
stores.
Okay.
In the regs themselves, in fact, some of the information that we had received back in 2021 mentioned, that's what the state expected. The nearest use was liquor stores. Don't worry if anybody didn't sign up. We will ask anybody who's not on the list. We're hoping to, at the latest, go to 11 p.m. It's only 8:40. Note that other forms of submittal, including email and mail, in addition to in-person, and all these forms are regarded equally. So some of the information, let's see if we have any correspondence. I think we do, right?
Yeah.
Some of them.
I had it with the,
Aside from the letters for and against.
Westcott, they give you
Oh, yeah. Oh, here's the planning commission. So if you could read that for me, please, Tony?
The letter to the Planning Commission from Amy Curran on behalf of the Zoning Commission dated February 23rd, 2024. It's proposed regulation, change in text amendment, permitted and prohibited use regarding the cannabis establishments and medical marijuana dispensaries. Zoning Commission will hold public hearings March 28th, 2024, to the hearing of the application Z24-11 for application for regulation change in text amendments of permitted and prohibited use of cannabis establishments and medical marijuana dispensaries. Copy has also been enclosed for review. Please provide at your earliest convenience.
Okay, thank you. You said we had a sign-up sheet for the fire and police?
No comment.
No comment, all right.
Jim
And the
Fish-
sewer commission.
Jim Fisher just say he had something from the EDC?
He said he'll be writing something.
Oh.
Oh, next time, all right.
I believe there's written referral from the planning commission that should be in there, the
Oh,
actual response.
oh,
form. I
yes,
believe you read
yes.
the response.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, these are all the letters to them.
Oh, they sent you a positive referral with a few,
Yes, yes.
actually, it's on the,
Where is that?
Police department weigh in?
no, they did not.
I don't see that in here too. I see to the planning commission.
Here's a memo from planning commission to zoning commission.
Do you want me
You
to
guys
read
are
that?
totally testing
Oh,
me.
I could read this one. Please be advised that the regular meeting of the Planning Commission held on March 7th, 2024, the Planning Commission made the following motion with regard to the above application. A motion is made by Chairman S. Dale to forward a memo to the Zoning Commission stating that the Planning Commission sent a favorable referral with regard to the proposed regulation change and text amendment, permitted and prohibited uses regarding cannabis establishments and medical marijuana dispensaries with the following additional comments. First bullet, the Planning Commission would recommend further consideration in the future to increase the maximum number of cannabis retailers and medical marijuana dispensaries to 2 to allow competition. That'd be section 4.2, commercial district permitted uses table. Second point, the Planning Commission would appreciate a more defined hybrid retailer within the maximum number, section 4.2, commercial district permitted users table. And then finally, the Planning Commission asks that the Zoning Commission consider adding a special permit allowance under the Town Center District, 4.2.A, commercial district permitted uses table 6.1. Oh. This motion was seconded by C. Knapp and carried 4-0-1 with J. Mara opposing.
It's a typo, probably should be 410.
410, yeah. 410. Okay. That's from the Planning Commission.
Yeah, we read that one, I think. I think he just, Tony just read that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one he didn't have to look at the screen for.
Yeah, I gave him a live copy. All right, so why don't I go over the application now? Use my copy. So the application has a few sections, and the sections that, okay, you have it right there. The first section is 2.2, defined terms. Previous to our moratorium, we did allow a medical marijuana dispensary, so that is being deleted, that term, and a new term added to match what the state has in their regs. So we wanted to get the verbiage right under cannabis, what cannabis is, as defined in section 21A-240 of the Connecticut General Statutes. What a cannabis establishment is, a producer, one who makes cannabis products, a dispensary facility, which is a medical dispensary facility, a cultivator, a grower, a micro-cultivator, a smaller grower, a retailer who sells cannabis for adult use to 21 and older public, a hybrid retailer, which is a medical dispensary and a retail seller. An example of that would be the Botanist over in Danbury. A food and beverage manufacturer, again, which is sort of a producer, a product manufacturer, a product packager, someone who packages these things, a delivery service, someone who drives it to your house, or a transporter, someone who moves cannabis around from a producer to a dispensary, as defined in the June 2021 Connecticut Public Act concerning responsible and equitable regulation of adult use cannabis, as I previously referred to Public Act 21-1, and they must be licensed by the state of Connecticut. A consumer is an individual 20 years or older. 21, sorry. I get that right. Cultivation, and so below that is a definition of some of those terms above. What a cultivation is, a cultivator, the delivery service, the food and beverage manufacturer, the hybrid retailer, medical marijuana dispensary. And the reason we have all these is so when we refer to them later, there's no question as to what we're talking about. Because absent a good definition, they have to go to a Black's Law dictionary or from there to a regular dictionary. So if we want to control what we're talking about, we put them in our definitions. What a dispensary is, marijuana products, a microcultivator, palliative use, a producer, product manufacturer, product packager, production facility, recreational use, retailer, and a transporter. So those are the definitions that are referenced in the rest of the regs below. So our section 4 in our regulations for commercial establishments, and the regs that we wrote are only for commercial zones. So the first one we were going to amend table permitted uses table 4.2a in the commercial district, and we're going to amend 6.I, which is an entry in that table to allow medical marijuana dispensary and cannabis retailer. And then there's references to 4.4a. Anything with green is an addition. And okay, you have it up there. And the areas that we're allowing are these zones that have SP. SP stands for special permit. Special permit requires a public hearing, such as this. The Gateway North, Commercial Gateway North is above us, north of the TCD. Commercial Gateway South is south of the TCD down to, say, Echo Bay, I guess, the Echo Bay bookstore.
Elbow Hill Road. Right.
Oh, a little. The C1 district is from about
Danbury line
to Costco, approximately.
Just past Costco.
Yeah. C2 is from there up to the bottom of the Gateway South. The Marine Commercial District, or where Echo Bay and everything, is not allowed in there. Industrial 1 District is everything that's to the right of Federal Road, basically. It goes down almost the whole distance of Federal Road below Super 7 coming into Exit 12. And CP is a corporate park. The corporate park, which is Berkshire Park, that's actually in Bethel, Brookfield, and Danbury. And then TCD is not allowed. So the two commercial districts that we didn't put it in was TCD and the Marine Commercial District. So planning, that's where planning looked at, and they thought maybe we should add it to that. So that was their input to that. Also, entry 9G, which is an industrial use. So the top ones were retail, sales, and service. And then 9G is for a table for industrial. We added the entry G, cannabis production facility, and again reference back to 4.4 A and M, and those again would be allowed in the same districts as a production facility. So part of this 4.2B, we used to have medical marijuana production facilities as prohibited, so we're deleting that because that's what we're adding here. And then 4.4A, adult-oriented businesses. So I'll read the whole thing, but the part in green is what we added. No such adult-oriented business may be located within 500 feet of any residential structure, public or private school, or other educational facility serving individuals under 18 years of age, daycare centers, senior centers, churches, medical marijuana dispensaries, cannabis retailers, cannabis production facilities, other adult-oriented business establishments, nor an establishment which sells alcoholic beverages pursuant to a valid state liquor license. For purposes of compliance with these distance requirements, distances shall be measured in a straight line without regard to intervening structures or objects from the principal interest of the building containing the proposed use to the nearest boundary of the uses herein. So that's what keeps liquor stores apart from each other, this distance requirement. And it also would be any use. So if there's a liquor store nearby, you couldn't have a cannabis store near it, or any other cannabis store, or any other adult business establishments. So we wanted to spread things out. We didn't want them all clustered together. And important is that it goes to the property line of the abutter, of the residence or church or something else. So not to their front door, because that's very difficult to measure. It's from the front door of what we're doing to the property line of some of these other areas.
We should also point out that Brookfield, I believe, is limited to 7 liquor.
For liquors, yeah, we only have 7 liquor stores based on population. So the only thing we added there was cannabis retailers and cannabis production facilities, figuring this was an adult-oriented business. In 4.4L, medical marijuana dispensary, we amend it by deleting the last sentence. Medical marijuana production facilities are specifically prohibited in any district zone, because now we're looking to see, do we want to add them? So that's at odds with what we're talking about. Then a sort of a definition here, 4.4M, cannabis establishments and what we allow. So again, this is a list of everything that's possible. Our task here is to get your input and see what we should or should not take away, because we can't add anything after the fact. So these are all the different types. A cannabis production facility would be either a producer, a cultivator, a micro-cultivator, or a food and beverage manufacturer. A cannabis retailer, as follows, would be a retailer or a hybrid retailer. Before I mentioned, a hybrid is a medical and retail together. A medical could transform itself into add retail to it. It was easy for them since they had already gone through the process of the security and the licensing. And then finally, medical marijuana dispensary. It refers back to the permitted uses in the zones, back to that table that I first went over. And then this is where we put the maximum number of cannabis retailers is 1, which includes below hybrid and retailers, so 1 total. And the maximum number of medical marijuana dispensaries is 1. We didn't put any limit on production facilities. Now, that doesn't mean we can't add something, because we're adding a restriction. That's allowed. We just can't add any non-restrictions. So that is basically the application as a whole, and having the regs in place makes sure that we've addressed it as a town. And having this public hearing is making sure that we have the public's views on it and what we should do as a commission as we take all your input. So, the commission have any questions on the presentation? By the way, the commission worked on this language together, and then we finally came to this final format to present. So hopefully we have no questions, but maybe we do. Anybody? No? So I'm prepared to hear any questions for clarification from the audience. Okay, ma'am, if you would come up, and because we have a microphone. And if you state your name and address, please.
Jillian Doherty, 49 Hopbrook Road. I was curious as to the last and permitted in the zones, and then the maximum number of cannabis retailers could be 1.
Mm-hmm.
The maximum number of medical marijuana dispensaries could also be 1, so
Because
that
they're
could
separate.
be 2?
That medical marijuana dispensary is one where you have to have an appointment, you have to have a card.
Prescription.
Right.
Prescription, and so yes.
Okay,
Yes,
and-
that's separate. That's not, nobody from the public can just walk in.
And if someone were to propose a combination medical,
That's the hybrid.
right, the hybrid.
So that would fall under.
Would that fall under, and then we just have 1?
No, No, because that would fall under retail. Under 2 is cannabis retailer, includes both hybrid and regular.
Okay.
Not that we couldn't change things, this all depends on, this is the first cut. It's
Right,
draft
that
for the public.
was just a little confusing to me.
Yeah, I think it was a little confusing to the planning commission too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jillian, I didn't catch your last name.
Oh, Doherty, Doherty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with questions or clarification? Tara?
Hi. Tara Carr, 54 Indian Trail. So just for clarification, who drafted the regulations?
The commission worked on drafting the regulations themselves.
Did you use legal counsel to help?
Yes,
as the draft?
we actually submitted these to our town attorney to look over the verbiage and make sure, it passed legal muster.
And when was that?
This was before we submitted them, so back in February.
Tom's email is dated February 20th.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
right.
gonna say it was middle, I thought it was middle of February.
Yeah.
Could have been early February.
So we were
but-
waiting on his information, his opinion, before we submitted the final draft and actually submitted an application.
Did he bill us independently from the retainer for the draft of this reg?
I have no idea. That's,
And was the regulation compared against other towns who already have a regulation in place?
yes, in fact, we took Richfield's regulations as a start and Danbury's, and then we worked from there.
So Richfield has a ban, a complete ban.
Yeah,
So why did they draft a regulation?
well, they had to draft a regulation before they came to a decision.
But
just
I
like
thought
we
I
did.
heard you earlier say that we could either adhere to a regulation if it's adopted, or we can put a ban. Is that correct?
Well, the ban would be taking this language and, prohibiting everything. This could end up, if everybody's against it, basically prohibiting cannabis sales in Brookfield and
So
production
if we have a
facilities.
ban, we don't need a regulation?
Well, the ban is a regulation. It's the same thing.
If you
It's
choose-
just a terminology, but it's a zoning regulation titled a ban.
Then does the regulation, is it eliminated from the zoning?
No, we codify it in the zoning regs as a ban or a prohibition on any marijuana retailers or production or medical dispensaries.
So we say we have these regulations, but they're banned.
No, the regulation would be banning it. That's what the regulation would say.
So we would dismiss what the draft here says, and our
Well, this is
regulation would simply
not
say, we
dismiss.
ban all marijuana sales.
Yeah,
in the
we
town.
can, we want to present the possibility of what's possible, and then we can add restrictions. Restriction could be, we prohibit all this. We could change the language to make it more restrictive.
Right.
All the way down to a complete ban.
And if we do a complete ban, just for clarity, we can also reverse that down the road if we so choose.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So, because it's zoning reg, yeah. That's
And then my final question, I lost what my final question was. It revolves around, the comprehensiveness of this regulation. I know in part of the hearing is about addressing where we could potentially make changes to it.
Mhm.
But how do we know with certainty that the regulation will be comprehensive? Because in the past, certainly the town has spent money on regulations that have not been comprehensive. And that was as a result of the work of the zoning commission.
Mhm.
So I don't want it to be for naught or a waste of taxpayer money to get after what we absolutely need. How do we know with certainty that the regulation will be comprehensive?
We'll never know. I mean, because at the way this is, just like our rest of our regulations, we might have spent a lot of time doing it with experts, but until it's tested, we won't know. Now, we tried to look at everybody else's regulations and craft something that would be comprehensive, and we feel that it is. So,
And just
if we
for the
can't-
record, the last time the zoning commission paid for a regulation,
Mhm.
it's filled with errors, and it was a waste of taxpayer money.
Well, okay.
I'll save my other comments for public.
Sure,
comment. Thanks.
Yep, no problem. Anybody,
One question, just for clarification. Austin, Montero, 17 Dairy Farm. Just to make sure what you guys said about planning, what they recommended, they actually wanted to extend the commercial zones that this will be available in. Was that correct?
yes, of
So they
course, we
wanna
can't
add-
do
yeah.
that,
Right.
but they said in the future,
Mhm.
they're, since they had a favorable,
Pull their memo up again, Francis.
yeah,
so we
since
can
they
see
had a
that.
favorable view on this,
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, they're okay with this as a planning commission.
Right.
And so if something went in, then they would say, in the future, maybe you can add that.
And part of that was town center district.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And
Only
town
town, so
center
town center
district
district.
and
Okay.
increasing the number from 1 to 2.
1 to 2. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Just so you know, we can't, because that would have to be a different meeting, it had to be advertised, and we can't add anything more expansive.
Frank Kwok, 40 Deer Run Road. Very quickly, there were 6 of the 9 licenses listed up there that the state in 2021 passed and approved. Are those other 3, the 3 that are not listed, off the table entirely?
Which 3 are?
Could we bring up the previous screen, Fran? That listed the A through D and then AB?
Oh, you mean in my application? Yeah,
Yeah.
there was 4
We left off-
production facilities.
We left off delivery and 2 more. Are those explicitly not included or just left off inadvertently?
Actually, there's explicitly not included because delivery service, the state controls that. You could have someone deliver something from Danbury to your house here. We have no control over that.
That's not a local license issue then?
No.
What about the other 2? There were 2, I thought there were 9
Probably,
licenses altogether.
Yeah, those are just definition, transporter?
Yep.
Probably,
Yep.
yeah, that's the other one.
Yep.
Yeah, these are facilities, these are brick and mortar facilities sitting on the
Understood.
ground. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
inside Brookfield.
I'm that person, I'm so sorry. Can you tell the public how many of the letters were either opposing or in support of?
Oh, sure. As of 4:15 today, there was 28 against and 1 for. That was the reading now. And I guess we'll find out here too. So, of course, the public hearing is open for another meeting. Question of clarification. We're not doing for or against, we're just doing clarification. Too soon. Any other with question of clarification? All right. So can I have the 4? I'm getting full. Yes. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask for comments and in support of this, and I'm going to go for here first. Ward, I was going to put you want to go first? All right, I have 3 minutes. That's what I'm giving everybody. Is that enough? Okay. Ward Mizuko, you're on the list. Number 1. Go on, yeah. I mean, it's not 11 and nobody else needs to speak then. Name and address.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Ward Mizuko. I'm a lawyer with offices in Danbury. Here this evening with Charles Lichtenauer, a colleague of mine, and we're here in support of the application on behalf of Divine Holdings and Debbie's Dispensary, which, if the commission sees fit to approve this enabling regulation, they would return and seek a special permit to lease property at 99 Federal Road owned by Hawley Properties, and Dave Hawley's here with me tonight as well. That's where that's the old Newtown Savings Bank branch, which has been vacant for a while. That's where they would propose to locate. Try to be as brief as possible. I sense from the number of folks here wishing to speak in opposition and from the letters that the commission has the task of figuring out what is in the best interest of the community at large and what are the townspeople really seeking. I'm sure many people hold sincere moral objections to the use of marijuana, and you might be asking yourselves, well, why aren't there people here in favor? Well, I think there's a pretty simple reason for that. This has been an illegal substance in Connecticut, but the legislature saw fit to legalize it in this manner back in 2021. And, you know, you have to ask yourself, who is going to come up to this podium, stand at the microphone, visible to everybody at home, and say, hey, you know, I really enjoy my marijuana at home, and I think we need to have a dispensary in town. That's not what most people who are interested in marijuana are going to do. There's still that moral stigma. And although the legislature has legalized it, but the stigma remains. And that's unfortunate because I think it keeps a lot of the people who are interested in using cannabis at home. Among the important benefits of the town are the 3% sales tax. Based on the projections, it would be reasonable to expect more than $200,000 a year of new funds to enter town coffers as a result of the eventual facility. That could pay for a few teachers or policemen, and I think that would be a very good thing for the town. I was involved in the land use work for the botanist in Danbury, and you know, people didn't come out in favor of that either. But I happen to work right up the hill from there, and I pass it every single day. And every day there are people going in, people going out. Is that,
Yes, thank you.
that is 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Time flies. If at the end of the meeting, you know, we have more. Jillian Doherty.
Okay. You need my name again? Okay. I guess I'm one of the few people who's gonna stand up here and say, I think we need marijuana dispensary. Primarily because right now, anything anybody wants to, who doesn't want us to have one, is protecting us from, is 9/10 of a mile from the Brookfield border. So Danbury's getting a lot of 3% taxes, and we're not getting any. So people are coming here, and they're going to do their weekly shopping at Costco, and they're going to do their weekly shopping at BJ's. And then they're going to drive to Butter in Danbury and buy their pot. So it makes sense to me, especially while nobody else around has any dispensaries, that we capture some of that tax money. And that's really my pro point. So I'll sit down now.
All right, thank you. All right, Frank Kwok.
Frank Kwok, 40 Deer Run Road. I fully support the regulation change. Fully support it. I would urge the commission, even though the retail license is what gets everyone's blood boiling, I would urge the commission not to overlook the importance of the production licenses and the tax revenue that could potentially accrue because of allowing production facilities in Brookfield. Leading up to their ban, Ridgefield in 2021, in the summer of 2021, had a Zoom convocation. They included people from the California regional representatives of California. They're essentially the West Cog of California, only county-based, right, instead of town-based. The attorney for the RC was very, very forceful in saying, if you don't allow retail, for whatever reason, don't necessarily throw production out the window, because it can be a very serious tax base in town. It's been acknowledged that Connecticut has a shortage of inventory because there are only 2 growers in the state right now. I would urge the commission also to examine the experience of Massachusetts. While they have many years of a jump on us, they've been rather successful, especially with tax monies accruing into the state government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else like to speak in favor of this application? Yes, sir.
Hello, Andrew Simino. I'm here on behalf of Divine Holdings, or 99 Federal Road. Yeah, so I just want to add something else, just from, like, out of respect to everyone, because I get it. I get everyone's opinions, and it's not for everyone. But as an operator, we plan on being a hybrid location, which is medical, which means we'd have a pharmacist on staff, which means we'd have consulting rooms for people to come and talk about different products we have, how those products will work for them, what to stay away from. And then also, I think really what's important is a mission for like public safety and public health, is that we have a problem in Connecticut right now with the illicit cannabis market. And those are the items that are sort of getting a lot of the negative views of things that are laced with fentanyl and all kinds of things that are causing trouble. We are not that. We're very sophisticated. We're cultivators. We grow the medicine. We grow the products. We create the products, and we make sure that we're dosing correctly, and our product and quality control goes all the way from the seed to the sale, right to our customers. And that's who we are, and we're proud to say that, and we hope that you would consider that for this town. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else would like to speak in favor of this application? Okay, hearing none. Now those opposing, I'll go from the list. Kevin Placella.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kevin Placella, 115 Heatherwood Drive. Yeah, it's been 2 hours of sitting here, and I'm fully opposed to having any, the terminology to me it's just mind-boggling, the usage, the word or verb, you guys call it verbiage. Marijuana is a drug, it's just what it is. It's a gateway drug, and it's a gateway drug into hell. So if one person is harmed from marijuana that may lead into any other activity that might harm that person, it shouldn't be allowed. If one person is going to get harmed, it should not be allowed. I understand that there's medical uses for marijuana. I get it. It's not hard to get marijuana. It was never hard for me to get marijuana as a teenager, as a young man, and thank God that I've been delivered from any use. I don't partake. I wouldn't be opposed to Brookfield being a dry town of all things. Get rid of the liquor stores. Doesn't bother me one bit. Right? And you wanted facts. Facts. This is New England. This country was founded right here in New England. What California might be doing on the West Coast, we don't have to do the same thing in here in New England. We can stand for righteousness. Let Brookfield be the town that says, not in our town. We're going to look after our young people, 21 years old. They're kids. 21 years old, it's an adult. I understand that 18 years old, you can be drafted, you can go to war. These are young, impressionable people. We have to stand up for righteousness. Today, this day, I wasn't sure if I was going to come out here, but I wanted my name on record on public use that I'm fully opposed to having drugs legalized anywhere in this country, period. I think it's a sad state of affairs where we are as a country, that we're just allowing people to leisurely walk in. And just as this gentleman just said, this stuff is created in a laboratory. It's not the marijuana that grows out of the earth that they're like, oh, it's not that. People are getting sent to the hospital smoking this stuff, and that's a fact. People get sent to the hospitals for these things. So you say, what benefits does it have? I say none. That's a fact. If medical marijuana is another story. You can get it from your doctor. It can get mailed to you. As you guys just said, which was beyond my knowledge, the botanist could come deliver it to your house. So there you go. If you live in Brookfield, you can get on your phone and have your marijuana delivered to you. That's fine. You want to grow it in your backyard and smoke it on your back porch, all power to you. And if any meeting that has to do with medical marijuana, it being here in Brookfield or whatever you want to call it, the recreation use, and forgive me for getting excited because I'm excited. This is a topic that I feel needs to be dealt with today, and I'm looking to you gentlemen. I don't even know if you're elected officials or not, but you have influence in this town, and I feel like you would be setting a gold standard for New Englanders, that the awakening is happening once again here in New England. We will not stand for evilness in our towns. We will not stand for the drugs and the alcohol taking people over. It has to stop somewhere. Where's the limit? Where's the limit? That's what I say. Thank you.
Thank you. Austin Montero.
Austin Montero, 17 Dairy Farm. Pretty much second what Kevin just said there. So for the record, I oppose any cannabis facility, dispensary of any kind here in Brookfield. Again, this is another public health issue. I feel like I'm in this room a lot talking about public health issues. We've seen the emails, we've seen surveys online, we've seen community polls. We, the people of Brookfield, are firmly against any dispensary here in Brookfield, full stop. Just like surrounding towns, Bridgewater, Newtown, Bethel, Ridgefield have already said no for obvious reasons. And as far as the dispensary goes, let's not be seduced by some quick profits. I think the numbers being thrown out there are inflated greatly. For every dollar gained, there's going to be a cost for that dollar, and often it's paid in the currency of human health and really societal decay, which was also just mentioned previously. And then this new form of THC is synthetic. It's much more potent than what our grandparents or parents used back in the day or didn't use. If we have people driving around high, eating 20 milligram watermelon flavored edible gummies, it's going to be a public safety concern. When it comes to health impacts, cannabis is a town and its people, we can't afford to sugarcoat what reality really is. Studies do show strong correlation between cannabis and adverse health effects, including obviously respiratory issues. We just went through COVID, immune systems are drained, a ton of respiratory issues there. Why add to that? Cognitive impairment, lowering testosterone levels and sperm counts in men, which are already lowest in the history of the world, and mental health disorders like increased anxiety, depression, and addiction, which are right now at all-time highs. Let's not forget about the impact on the youth. Obviously, cannabis, making it more available to impressionable minds, normalizing it just will sacrifice children's future as we're moving forward for the sake of a couple extra dollars here in our pocket. And lastly, the proliferation of cannabis dispensaries will not lead to prosperity. It will lead to stagnation and decline in Brookfield. It's time to prioritize for once, like actual health and well-being over some $9,000 a month of municipal tax. It's ridiculous. It's time to chart a course to a brighter future, not just for us, but for the kids coming up behind us, and just say no. It's very simple. Thank you.
Pat Bosio.
Patricia Basio, 2 Whitetail Lane. I'm well aware that there are those with ailments who benefit from using some medical marijuana, and of course those who choose to use it recreationally. And I'm also aware of the fact that this enterprise can be very lucrative, but to what extent in this town of Brookfield? I personally observed sitting at Frank Pepe's Pizzeria waiting for a pizza and watching how many cars go in and out of butter, and there's a lot. Everyone came out in a very short span of time with their little white bags and drove off. You can only imagine how much traffic this creates over the entire day and night. Now, personally, as a grandparent and a citizen of this town, my question to you is, why do you even consider this? Besides the obvious fact that this could turn into something detrimental to the town, there are other facilities in the area around us that can accommodate people who need or desire the product, and we don't need more traffic in this town. We don't need to expose our children and grandchildren to possible substance abuse, along with all the other insidious things that they're exposed to in school and social media and whatever. You have to ask, who is going to benefit from this endeavor? The town with taxes, because I suppose this is a very nice income-generating adventure, but to what end? What are you people thinking? Do you want your family members to be exposed to this right in your own backyards? We seem to have forgotten about decency, legitimacy, and just plain old-fashioned common sense that tells those who are cognitive of right and wrong this is something that should not, will not, and cannot infect Brookfield with the idiocracy for the sake of making money. I urge you to reject this bid and do not subject the public to something that could very well destroy our town. And I will end with a Bible verse from James 4:17 that says, "Therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, it is sin." Not my words, but his.
Fern Spenyak.
Fern Smenyak, 112 Obtuse Road South. I'm here tonight to ask that the zoning board consider the banning of cannabis production and selling facilities in Brookfield. There's a reason why so many surrounding towns have banned these dispensaries and facilities. Not many of you may be aware, but Brookfield has lost many individuals to drug use, including overdoses, over the last 12 years. Most of these individuals started in high school, and even some in the middle school. So if you don't think we have a problem here in Brookfield, we do. It's one of the many well-kept secrets. Giving more accessibility to recreational drugs to our youth is the worst thing that we could possibly do. I know the political stakeholders in this town would love to generate the money from these facilities, but is it really worth losing your child, brother, sister, or friend? I don't think so. For those who have lost their life to drugs and are no longer here, let me speak for them. Don't take the chance of just one more Brookfield kid losing their life to drugs. No money is worth that loss. No pain is worth that pain. Sincerely, Tiffany, Shane, Michael, Nicholas, James, Mark, Aria, Stephen, Brittany, Brett, Will, Dave, Rashawn, Jane, Megan, Christopher, Paul, Mikey, Sean, Richard, Katie, Alexis, Amanda, Joey, Clayton, Niall, and my son Dex.
Sarah Carr?
That's tough to follow, I have to say. Tara Carr, 54 Indian Trail. I want to personally thank everybody who's standing up tonight. It takes a lot of courage and bravery, and who's opposed to this. I am vehemently opposed to cannabis sales and production in Brookfield. Our children, as young as elementary school age, are already being taught, and I quote from my 9-year-old daughter, that tobacco, alcohol, drugs, and smoking are all very bad for you, Mom, and how you can become addicted to it. In middle school, and I quote from my 13-year-old daughter, we are learning about the different types of drugs and how drugs can affect you in different ways and how you can overdose and die. These teachings seem to be the complete contrary from what we are considering here. Why would we, on the one hand, teach our children about how bad drugs are and the horrible consequences of drug use, etc., but then on the other hand, support selling them in our town? Furthermore, we have an organization in town called Brookfield Cares. I'm sure you're all very well aware. And they state in their mission that they are dedicated, quote, dedicated to creating awareness and positive change around the issues of substance misuse by engaging with all members of the community to reduce harmful behaviors and promote and support healthy choices. Well, it doesn't make sense for us to financially support Brookfield Cares through grants or otherwise, while simultaneously approving and enabling the very types of vices that Brookfield Cares is warning against. It would be very hypocritical, and it's vital that we hear what Brookfield Cares, where Brookfield Cares stands on this issue. Do you commissioners know where Brookfield Cares stands on this issue? We have to ask ourselves, what are we even considering here when neighboring towns have completely opted out of all marijuana sales? Bethel enacted their ban on recreational cannabis operations in 2014, Newtown in 2021, Richfield in 2022, and the New Milford Council recently in February voted to extend their current moratorium for another year. So the question remains, why have these towns decided against? Have any of you commissioners spoken with these towns to understand their reasoning? Certainly we should follow their lead, and they have. In fact, many first selectmen have already come out with statements opposing cannabis sales in their town. Has the zoning commission or anyone else here in Brookfield, for that matter, heard where our first selectman stands on this issue? As a member of the Board of Selectmen currently, I can tell you that the first selectman of Brookfield has not spoken with the Board of Selectmen about this. In Richfield, their newly approved ordinance prohibits, quote, the establishment, installation, creation, operation, or use of cannabis businesses in town, which is meant to, quote, secure and promote the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the town of Richfield by restricting the adverse impacts of the cannabis industry and preserving the town of Richfield's quality of life. Substitute Richfield with Brookfield? Wouldn't it be nice to hear that here in Brookfield?
Yes, it would.
And I'm going to keep going, I'm sorry. Finally, have our law enforcement officials, together with the police commissioners, weighed in on this? Have you, zoning commissioners, heard from the police chief, the police commissioners, about safety concerns, potential criminal activity associated with drug use, and the potential uptick of illicit drug sales? Ask yourselves, what is the compelling reason to support this? It's in our best interest to ban it.
Gail Archer? Gail Archer, is she here? Oh, yes.
Hi.
Your name and your address.
Gail Archer, 20 Long Meadow Hill Road. First, I appreciate the Zoning Commission's time and effort that they've put into starting this process of drafting regulations for cannabis sales and manufacturing in light of the moratorium that expires in May. But as a former emergency department nurse and school nurse, I am very much against the proposed regulations. I'm against it mainly for health and safety concerns, which have already been provided, and for the physical and financial burden it will put on our police department. For me, the big red flag is that every neighboring town and several others throughout Fairfield County now ban cannabis retail, and most of them are banning manufacturing. I was very disappointed when I read that the Planning Commission support not only of one retailer, but supports increasing it to 2 for our little town. One retailer per 25,000 residents was the initial state requirement regulation that they've now taken away, but why our Planning Commission would ask for 2 is beyond me. The Planning Commission also suggested that an allowance at the newly developed town center district, which includes many residential apartments, shops, restaurants, and the Still River Walkway, be included in acceptable zones. I feel that there is a huge disconnect. The Plan of Conservation and Development calls for development of commercial corridor in a balanced manner that protects the quiet residential districts that Brookfield is known for. A cannabis shop would not fit. The Planning Commission stated that their main reason for support would be because of the tax benefits Brookfield would receive. After reviewing the state's regulations that detail the restricted use of this tax benefit, which I don't think includes teachers or police officers, the tax benefit is geared, I think, to more larger cities that have greater needs. Yes, Brookfield and most towns around us have addiction and mental health concerns, and we probably could benefit from more programs. But to get those programs, we're promoting the sale of a Schedule I drug that is prohibited by federal law. Prohibited by federal law. This seems like a vicious cycle. It is better to maintain and improve what we have rather than go down a new path with increasing challenges. One use of a tax revenue is for streetscape improvements. I personally would rather have streets with lots of potholes than have pot on the streets. I encourage you to ban cannabis sales and manufacturing now. And on a side note, which I didn't write down, I know it's a free country and I know it's an open meeting, but I am very offended that this interested party is here trying to influence you into voting yes. Very offended. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in opposition? Oh, I'm sorry.
Carol DeSimone, 28 Junction Road. I didn't come prepared to say anything, but I think that the people of this town should, everybody should vote on this, not just a committee.
I agree.
Yes. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I agree.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in opposition?
I would just like to know why it's called medical marijuana. Who made it medical marijuana? It gets you high.
That was for a question, it's a clarification, but the state defined that, not us.
There's nothing medical about it.
Medical marijuana doesn't have.
Please, no, anybody else like to speak in opposition? Sir, would you like to submit?
Just
Yeah.
neutral, yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna do them during clarification, but I forgot, sorry.
That's all right. I didn't know whether it would fall under clarification or
What's your
not.
name and
Tom
address?
Keller, 3 Newbridge Road. Actually, I have copies of the survey. If you guys want a copy, sure. I'll wait till I get back to it. Oh, sorry. I was trying to work from my, I dropped everything, which is fine.
Survey was this.
Want down here? Yep. Thank you for whoever picked up my mess. After last Saturday's coffee down at Brookfield Market, Aga, Stepniak, and I decided to try and put together a quick survey to get some town people's opinions on it, and which is why I'm trying to remain neutral, because I don't want anyone to feel the survey was swayed either way. We made sure to have equal questions and for support or opposition for reasons why. It looks like in the town of Brookfield, as far as marijuana, commercial marijuana in general, 58.8% were against, 41.3% were for, with 3.9% neutral. As far as dispensaries, 59.2% against, 37.3% for, and 2.9% neutral. Top reasons for it were ability to get marijuana from a safe supplier and tax revenue for the town. Biggest one is tax revenue for the town. Against it, concerned about people driving under the influence and don't want it to go to children. One other thing I noticed is the people against it were strongly against it, where the people for it were kind of mixed between strongly for it and somewhat for it. So, just kind of what the town's opinion was over the past couple days from, I believe this went up Monday on various social media sites.
And I see you got 177 responses on one, 144 on the other. That's what it says.
What's 144?
No, it's
Not that-
I'm 174, sorry.
Gotcha.
My glasses must be broken.
And I mean, if anyone wants to see the raw data, some people are data nerds. I am sometimes, so I've got copies of that too.
Keller, you said, right?
Yes, KELLER. And if anyone wants to look at the online data, I got QR codes you can scan on your smartphone, and you can pull it up online, look at all the data.
Thank you to you
thank you.
for putting this together. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll take the raw data for the file.
Well, I have the survey turned off. I turned it off this evening.
And maybe,
Just to see the results.
and maybe if the land use staff could put that in a PDF and email it to the commissioners and put it up online,
Yeah.
that'd be good. Since we're well before 11 o'clock, we want to see if anybody else has questions.
Oh, yeah.
Put them before me.
Sir, do you want to speak in
That's it.
opposition? Oh, sure. Can you come up to the
That's
podium,
fine. I
please?
printed a bunch of them. I'd rather have too much than not enough. Did someone else say they wanted the raw data?
I did,
We're
but
gonna scan
she
it in and
got
then make it available to everybody, so.
Can I hit, it was the old Stamperino?
I think you lost your pen cap there, Tom.
All right.
Yeah, I heard something drop.
Whichever one you want.
No, I don't mind. It's been there all night.
Oh, sorry.
I just like to use the stamp. Okay. Sir,
That's what I've been doing all night.
All right, she gets the bonus round. She absolutely gets the bonus round.
I am neutral.
all right, we're going to listen to our next speaker. Sir, if you state your name and address?
Good evening, Tony Carr, 54 Indian Trail. And first of all, I want to thank Tom Keller for taking the initiative in doing that. I think that's great that he was able to do that. I just caution that when we look at a sample set that small, we're talking maybe 1% of the Brookfield population, to say that extends to represent the entire Brookfield population is probably a stretch, but, I mean, it's still a great initiative that he would go out there and do that. And I'm speaking in opposition from the standpoint of, I've been a chief of police for 2 different communities of thousands of people. And in doing so, busted a lot of folks for use of all kinds of drugs, to include marijuana, because as somebody pointed out, I worked on a federal military installation and it's still illegal there. But folks that consumed in the privacy of their own homes or whatever wasn't really what was bothering us. It was those that were driving after using cannabis. And when you look at statistics, which I've done over the last couple of weeks since my wife told me that this was being debated, looked at Colorado and looked at Washington State and other states that have had cannabis. And when you have the legalized cannabis sales, the illicit cannabis sales follow that very closely and in fact increase, because their goal, the illicit sellers, is to undercut the legitimate sellers. You know, if you're at home and you're used to getting your nickel bag for a certain amount of money, and then now you got to go to a store and you're going to pay an upcharge of about $30 because now it's legal and convenient, the illicit sellers take advantage of that. And those markets, the black markets, have continued to grow in many communities. We see them around military installations all over, and we see them, you know, and we've seen them in civilian communities as well. So I just caution that if do we want Brookfield to be a lightning rod for the type of people that want to come somewhere to purchase their marijuana and then drive away somewhere else? If Danbury wants to do that, more power to them. We're a short drive from Danbury for those that are interested in using it. I don't really see a compelling reason, as my wife so eloquently put earlier, that Brookfield really needs this. If you think about the tax revenue generated, I think you said 3%, sir, that the town gets off of sales. If you sold $1 billion in revenue, that's a $3 million boost. Are we going to do $1 billion in sale? I don't think the town of Brookfield is going to push that much. So even $1 million, you're only talking $30,000. Is it really worth $30,000 for $1 million of revenue sales?
Please, Nat,
Right.
please,
So
everybody,
that's
just let him speak.
that's my point is, I think if we really look at it hard, from a law enforcement standpoint, we're going to spend that much money just hiring more law enforcement officers, more than that much money. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in opposition?
I didn't sign in.
Oh, no, that's fine. This is after the,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Please, when someone's speaking, please no outburst or any comments.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm Marty Fonsello, 11 Drover Road, Brookfield. I'll start out by saying I'm opposed to this. I'm the state representative also, by the way, for Brookfield. A couple of sound bites that you've already heard from others here. I'm concerned about the impact on the quality of life in town, the health, the safety, the morals, and the general welfare of the people in town, and the negative impact on various organizations in town, the businesses, the schools. They may be near churches, homes. You can't, once this is out there for sale and people use it, it's hard for you to restrict it. How are you going to prevent people from using this and then driving or going to school? All right, we were faced with the marijuana issue in Hartford. I wasn't there when they originally passed the legislation, but we've got the after effects of it. All right, gas stations were not supposed to be allowed to sell the products because you could go in, buy a gummy bear, eat a couple, get in your car, and now you're intoxicated. Right? Will they let you do that with booze? I don't think so. Why should we allow this to happen? Are there prohibited combinations of types of, like the hybrid stores you talked about? I'll get the medical in a minute here. Can you sell it in a store that sells ice cream? How about hamburgers? Right? All things to attract, right? But bring in business for these companies. A couple of questions here. You don't have to answer them because you're beyond the question period. Who introduced this and why? What's their special interest in bringing this to Brookfield? Has anyone actually expressed an interest in establishing any one of those cannabis-related businesses, whether it's retail or farming or whatever it may be. Regarding the medical issues, you can go to the drugstore and get it, or go to the hospital to get it if your doctor provides it for you. You don't need to get it from a special retail store. What you appear to be doing here is carving out special protections for a business here in town for the cannabis sales, right? Why don't we do the same thing for diabetes medication or cancer or anything else? Why just this particular one? We have enough problems with mental health issues in Connecticut. That's one of my big issues up in Hartford. We don't need to encourage additional problems with mental health by giving people mind-altering drugs. There are marijuana sales facilities in Danbury. They're not that far away. There's nothing that says we have to have one or two even. Why are we even condoning competition for it here in Brookfield? And the last thing I want to say here is about the 3% sales tax. That, to me, seems like blood money. So we're not concerned about it. We don't want your tax. But thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? And by the way, thank you for adhering to the time limits.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody else? I just wanted to mention,
I think people think that we wrote these regulations because we wanted it, so I think maybe if you clarify.
okay, I clarified at the beginning, but we
But-
wrote these regulations because we had to get something on the books so that we weren't left open to cannabis coming in without our control. We need to right to control. Whether that control ends up in total ban or allowing something, we don't know yet. That's what we're doing right now. But we didn't have the mind here as a commission to say, yes, we want cannabis. We don't have an opinion on it. What we're doing is writing a reg because it's required in order to control our destiny here in Brookfield. And with a reg on the book, then we've done our job, however the reg turns out to be. So just so you know, Planning Commission, well, they obviously are in favor of it. We have no opinion of it right now. And, that's why we're taking this in.
And if it does come to a ban, as some have asked for tonight, this is where it had to start, with this commission.
Right.
And Brookfield has always been, on this particular issue, before any of us were on the commission, been very proactive in standing in front of the gate on this. For example, when the state first passed what they call the medical marijuana legislation, we were one of the first ones in the area to put a moratorium in because the Department of Public Health hadn't made regulations to back up that statute yet. So we've always been out in front of the gate on that, but now we're looking at the May 16th moratorium expiration, so we're exactly that, trying to get out of the ground. And we appreciate everybody who came to speak tonight and who's written in and who will write in and speak up about this.
That's why we're leaving the public hearing open.
And so it's certainly, I just want to answer one thing somebody said. They asked why we can't have a vote on this. Unfortunately, this is an area of law that's regulated to 5 elected and 3 appointed officials on the zoning commission. It's not something like a town ordinance that we could put up to a town meeting or referendum. I certainly would love to do that myself, but we don't have a body of law or a mechanism in law that will get to that. So it's here.
Also, one more data point. I did go by Butter to see what the place is about. I talked with the head of security there, and they get between 300 and 500 people a day that come through and buy. And when I was there for 10 minutes. Maybe 3 or 4 people walked in the store, just in that short time. So it's not steady. It's got lulls, like just before they close. People want to come in.
Did Mrs. Archer have a question?
I did have a question. I know I'm not supposed to.
You can ask, anybody can ask a question, please.
Well, we have a certain, clarification, but we have time. We have time.
We have a chairman.
Yeah, everything goes
We
to
have
the
a chairman.
chairman.
Yeah. Man, if you just want to ask your question,
I'll
you have to come up and.
Me?
Yeah, if you want to.
I might have more than one now, though, but okay, I will. Well, one was to have
Say your name.
Oh, I'm Gail Archer again, I'm sorry, 20 Long Meadow Hill Road. One, just about the vote. I mean, is that something that can go to the selectman's office and then make it a town vote?
Unfortunately, no.
A
It's
referendum?
regulated to this body body of law, the zoning body of law, which stops with the zoning commission.
But if the Board of Selectmen were
If
writing
it
this
was,
reg,
if it was regulated to the town itself as opposed to the zoning commission of the town, then it could come through the selectmen to a town meeting to referendum. But it's not a body of law that the legislature has designated to the towns, only to the zoning or the planning and zoning commission, whatever the case may be within the municipality.
okay.
So we're the body that will render the final decision. We do these public hearings, gather input, and then we close the public hearing, at which point we start to deliberate about everything we got in and about the regs we have in front of us, discuss it, make any modifications, that can restrict more, we can't add anything, and can't make anything more permissive, and then we take a vote on it. So the 5 voting members would vote, and you'd have to have 3 affirmative votes to pass anything we do. And if we don't pass it, then there's no regulation.
Right.
And then we're open. So we do want to pass something, but it could be very restrictive, all the way down to an outright ban.
And you can do a ban, and then later in life,
Yeah, with
change
zoning
that.
regs,
but-
if someone wants to change, or the change is driven by the new plan of conservation development, or an applicant comes in, anybody can apply for a zoning change, zoning reg change. But it's got to go through this whole process, just like it is right now.
Kurt, since we're not restricted on a time limit and we're gonna leave the public hearing open, is it possible for us at the next public hearing to have a red line version of what a ban would look like for Brookfield? Because I think that's what some of the folks here would like to see. So, I mean, it might help us as a commission to show what that would look like.
Yeah, I mean, I could write something up, just a few more questions. You hadn't spoken yet. Could you come up to the podiums? We have, it's our process.
You were worried about
Because
11 o'clock.
The people at home, yeah, I know. Should I have said that?
I was gonna say, you should not have said that.
That was the maximum limit, not the people at home, the only way they hear, because there's people probably watching on TV, is through that microphone and through that camera. So.
Ellen Gallo, 9 Brookfield Meadows. I said this about the things with the selectmen too. People don't know what's going on, and there's got to be a way to get it out there. I mean, I don't know how it can be done, because it costs a lot of money for flyers and all that stuff. But there's so many people that have no idea that there's a cannabis idea coming in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what a big problem is, that people don't know, and there has to be some way to get people to know what's going on.
The ways we use, because we're that very question, we wanted to advertise. We did interviews in the paper. I mean, I don't know how many people read the paper. The Patch has something. We have something on the website, 2 different things on the website. So as far as, more advertising, it's tough. It's a tough thing to advertise.
And it's terrible, because so many people don't know what's going on in this town, and all these things are popping up, and it's too late.
You find that with everything.
Yeah, it's just, I wish there was something we could do.
Yeah.
That's all.
We're doing what we can.
I know. It's a real thorn in my side.
Tara Carr, 54 Indian Trail. I would just respectfully request that the zoning commission come before the Board of Selectmen, but to potentially, we have our meeting on Monday night to present where we are with this. At the coffee, the question was raised, and the first selectman wasn't there. So our next meeting is on Monday night. Selectman Belden actually said that he was going to come to you to propose this. I'm not sure if he's done that.
I saw him tonight, but he was busy with early voting, so we didn't discuss that.
Which is odd, he shouldn't be doing that either, but.
Well, I don't know why he was here, administrative, I'm not sure.
So, yeah, I think just as the Board of Ed comes before the Board of Selectmen to present where they are on certain issues, or, it would be a more comprehensive way to, again, another avenue to put information out to the public. Not to advertise, so to speak, but just for information sharing purposes. So, I mean,
Alright,
maybe you can make that happen for Monday night, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, we'll
Thank you.
talk to land use. I do, yes. Seeing as we have a little time.
It's 2 questions. So our moratorium expires May 16th, right?
Yes.
So would it, at And we have no particular end date on
We don't have a
this public
state
meeting per
defined-
se.
Yeah.
So what happens if we don't have something
So if we
by
don't
May
have regs
16th?
on the thing, then an applicant can come in and put just a regular site plan application to put in a cannabis dispensary, and the nearest use is a liquor store, and that's just, site plan means there's no public hearing like this, and then if it meets our regs, then we have to approve it. That's what happens.
Okay.
Which is the driver for this, to put the wrappers and the guardrails around it. Again, as the chairman said, the commissioners don't have a path forward, pro or against. Again, it's strictly putting the guardrails up before the moratorium, because if the moratorium does expire, then it goes back to the state and anybody that fits the criteria, and there are no regulations or positions, could come in,
Okay.
put something in place.
So in theory, you'd like to have a vote by what, May 6th
May
meeting?
9th.
May
That's
9th
the last
meeting?
meeting before, yeah.
Okay, and then my second request is, if you're gonna write a hypothetical, what it would look like if you completely banned it, can you write a hypothetical, what it would look like if you approve it?
Well, you're looking at this is the application to approve everything is this language.
Then, okay, I
So
see.
we can only take things away. So we
Okay.
could take everything away, or
Yeah, I
write
guess
something
that's
where
pretty much what
all
you
these are
wrote.
prohibited, all these uses. The definitions would stay, because we need to know what we're talking about.
Okay.
But just like, there's one section where I said, yeah, where it used to say, medical production facilities are prohibited, it would be similar to that. Instead,
Okay.
it would say all three.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Then, and then you.
This gentleman right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm with you.
Yeah.
So I was told that,
Name and address
okay,
again?
I'm sorry, Carol D. Simone, 28 Junction. I was told that we can't have a vote in the town, right? The people that pay taxes cannot vote.
You are in effect voting by coming here
Right.
and giving us.
Now,
your
I
opinion.
just want, there's 5 of you here that will determine if we get it or we don't get it.
Yes.
Go home tonight and think about your family. And think about the children in your family, your children and your grandchildren, and maybe your grandchildren like I have. And the thought of them being on the road with some moron smoking weed and not driving right scares the heck out of me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So we'll do who hasn't spoken yet, then we'll get, then Ward maybe after that. You want to go after?
My name's Richard Lathrop. I live on 9 Huckleberry Hill. I've been in this town since 1944.
Could you spell your last name for her?
Lathrop. I'm not much of a speaker or nothing on this, but I think you should bring this to a town for a vote and get the selectmen over here and let them make their decision what they want. Because this is, I know several people that was on drugs, all this stuff. I never saw it, so I can't tell you about it. But they all died. They met the one across from his house. They went there maybe 4 or 5 times to the rehab at $45,000, $50,000 a piece. We paid for that. Somebody, they didn't pay. And then their kids, 2 of their kids committed suicide after long enough time. It's just a shame, because we just now look at where they're letting all them people come across the border. Was it 107,000 kids die a year? That's not right. This is what happened in China years ago.
Sir, just the application, we're talking about this
Okay.
application. Thank you.
I say the town should bring it up to a vote.
No, because the questions and the answers have to do with this application in front of us.
Thank you.
To just answer what we, wait a second.
No,
Oh,
all right.
yeah, so since we're not going to town vote, zoning commission approves this, we have a big number of appointed members, not elected on this board. How strongly are you going to take public comment, which is clearly overwhelming, into your consideration? Because I think it's pretty clear.
Just state
Yeah.
your name again for me.
Austin Montero, yeah. Just a question, is that something you guys will consider strongly?
Okay,
Yeah,
I think public comment is usually important on this topic because, for a couple of reasons. One, there's been a major movement to make zoning statewide and regionalized.
right.
And I don't think that that's a good thing. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is a Brookfield issue. This is a Brookfield application. It's decided here by this commission, not by the legislature. I mean, this is, ask Mr. Fonsello here, there's a big group in the legislature that wants to make zoning statewide and regional. If it does, we won't have this type of, back and forth. I know. Neither does I think any of us, but that's the point. So to me, public comment is hugely important on this topic, and I, as a commissioner, tend to take this very, very seriously, and I hope everybody else does as well.
Good, good.
Absolutely,
Appreciate that, thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Gentleman in the back had his
Yeah,
hand up.
Anthony Semino.
Andrew Simino. So I don't, you guys have opposition, that's absolutely respect that. I'm not trying to change that. But what I would like to offer is, if anyone's interested, what I personally view tonight for being in the industry for many years and being successful and not being tied to any of these instances that anyone's talking about, I can offer any education or studies or anything like that, because I feel like the public in general in the state, maybe even the country, is kind of misinformed on a lot of these subjects. So if anyone's interested in that, I'm more than willing to offer that service.
If you would send it to the land use office, they can put it up on the website.
Okay.
Similar to what Attorney Mazuka has put up there as well.
Absolutely. And again, you guys have every right to be opposed. I'm not testing that.
And then, since, I'll give you a second bite of the apple since other people have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, a second 3 minutes.
So, Ward Mizuko again. A lot of what happened tonight concerns public opinion. There's been a lot of discussion of that. But when you consider tonight there's probably 95% or more opposition from the people in this room. But you heard about Mr. Keller's survey, and I don't remember the numbers he came up with offhand, but it was a much closer call, 60-40 or 45-55 or something on that order. And then another commentator pointed out that, well, you know, with 170 some odd people that were quizzed in that survey, that's not really a representative sample even then. So if 170 something is not a representative sample of what the people of Brookfield believe, well, then certainly not 25 or 30 people is a representative sample. And while every voice here has been impactful and thoughtful and sincere and heartfelt, there may be many more people out there, the silent majority, as it were, who take a different view. So I'd like to offer that perspective to the commission. Also, it's not like you're voting on whether to allow marijuana into Brookfield or stop it at the border. It's here. It's here in illegal ways. It's here with impure products, the kind of things that cause the overdoses, the deaths, the effects that so many of the folks here talked about. They were absolutely right. There are some bad drugs out there. The idea is to transition from illegal, dangerous situations to legal products which can be enjoyed safely. That, I think, should be on the minds of this commission. So, just to recap, you know, this is a revenue source for the community, for the town. It will reduce illegal activity and replace it with safer legal activity. It is here to stay. Marijuana is not going away just because you create a ban. There are going to be plenty of people out there selling it the day after your ban might go into effect. Even the Planning Commission saw fit to recommend approval of it. So I would respectfully suggest that the commission take a broader view and continue the discussion with the folks who are here tonight and the people who might come next time, and adopt a more thoughtful view of how to regulate marijuana in the community, just as the state and the town have regulated liquor in the community and other uses that deserve special attention. So thank you very much for that time.
Johnny Carr, 54 Indian Trail. I'll keep it short. I know everyone wants to go home. Couple things. Remember all the lawyers and money that the tobacco industry spent on telling you Americans that nicotine was good for you or wasn't going to harm you. All right, remember that when lawyers speak, they're speaking from a position of convincing you to do something that maybe may not be in your best interest or the public's best interest. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you very much. Enjoy your night, everyone.
Motion to recess public hearing until April 11th.
Second. All right, thank you. Anybody discussion on the motion to continue the public hearing to next meeting? All in favor?
I am.
Yeah.
No, we recessed.
No. All right.
Are we gonna do the, are we? Yeah. Are we gonna do the,
Yes.
Are we gonna do the fee schedule tonight?
No.
No. I'm sorry.
Hasn't this been enough?
It's not 11 o'clock yet, I don't know.
To adjourn? Yep. There's a motion to adjourn by Tony.
Too late to adjourn anywhere? Is it too late?
Hey, Daryl, you want to second the motion to adjourn?
You don't have anything. I thought we had more on
Tony,
I'll second.
Hey, okay. Tony Daryl seconds it. All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
We are going.
Hey,
Huh?
Gwen, are you
Just adjourn.
you want to adjourn? All in favor? Are you in favor? Yeah, we're adjourned.
I think so.
I wasn't seated tonight. I should have been, however, but I wasn't.
Okay, I'm not telling you.
Happy Easter.
Thank you.
You, then Matt.
You're like, it wasn't me, not it.
Sure? Yeah.
But that is what I gave him freedom, you know?